Welcome to the Horror Hangout, a podcast where film fans watch the best and worst horror movies of all time and talk about them. My name is Ben Errington, and today I'm joined by a very special returning guest. Stu Freeman is a geeky gay dude, horror nerd, and YouTuber. Welcome back to the show, Stu.
Hi, how's it going? You all right?
Hello. How long has it been? When was the last time? It was the Little Shop of Horrors, right?
It was, yeah. So it was only a few months ago.
Oh, there we go. Regular returning guest.
Yes.
No Andy this week. Not that that matters, you know. Well, maybe it does matter. Sorry, Andy. That sounds a bit mean. Uh, for reasons I'm gonna say for reasons unknown. Make it mysterious. Let's see. Twitter go crazy. Let's see Twitter light up with
Rumors.
uh conspiracy theories. Where is he? He'll be back. He'll be back next week. But yeah, welcome back, Stu. Nice to have you on the show. Thank you.
Nice to be back. I'm a big
I
fan,
don't.
obviously.
Oh yeah. Of course, thank you. What we're obviously for people who can't see Stu's video, if you listen to audio only, his background is an absolute cornucopia. Is that the right word? Of
That is-
of of I'm going to try and identify some of the things. So I can see Wanda, I can see Doctor Strange, I can see Scorpion, I can see could that, oh no, it's Melina. It's not.
Uh,
I was gonna say
yeah, more
Psylocke.
like Shelf and Marvel, and then um,
Yeah.
got the signed Freddy glove.
Oh my God, yeah. Well,
Uh,
we were sticking to Marvel and Mortal Kombat, but then you've got the signed Freddy glove. Is it signed
yeah,
by?
all my horror stuff is kind of down here. So yeah, Hellraiser box set and things like that. I'm sure
Oh,
this is
amazing,
going to
man.
be great for everyone listed on Spotify.
That's right.
But
We're being nice and descriptive of everything.
yeah,
Is this like just have you got like a spare room or something that you keep all this stuff in?
this is the other side of my front room. So there's like a
Nice.
big sort of place with all my like Blu-rays and collections and stuff like that. And then this is just the statue area. Most of these are like presents from people. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's quite nice to have them all in one place now, basically.
An absolutely great question I'm about to deliver to you, Stu. What is your dusting technique when you have so many of those statues going on?
Every so often I do the whole like the gun blast thing, there's that like little
Yeah,
air
yeah. That's a good one.
just because it's fun, but it also scares the crap out of the cat, so I have to do it when she's in the other room.
Yeah, it's true.
She may make an entrance at some point. You'll probably hear her with
Yeah.
the zoom. Um, and yeah, just like going at it with some like Mr. Sheen.
Getting a Mr. Sheen over there because I was finding it's just so fiddly, innit? And you don't want to knock things off. I've got like a Lara Croft one, and every time I dust her, I knock the guns out of her hands. Want to
Yep.
drop and go under the sofa.
Yeah, I've done that with
Disaster.
there's an Injustice Batman and Wonder Woman one at the very top shelf, and he's meant to be holding a batarang, and I have no idea where that's gone now because
Oh
I've
yeah. Oh,
cleaned
I
it so
hate it
many
when that
times and
happens.
it's flown out of the cabinet.
Ah, the
But
what?
yeah,
I'm gonna a Batman horror story. I've got like the Batman black and white. It's designed by Gerard Way.
okay.
Um, and I think I knocked it at one point and like knocked it over, and the very tips of his ears have like gone,
Oh,
and I'm
no.
just like, oh no, what
Yeah.
am I gonna do? What can I do? I'm gonna have to find some really tiny little. I don't know. I'm gonna find another one and just chop the ears off exclusively.
Similar thing happened. I've got a little Batwoman bust my friend sent me, and her middle finger came off in the post. So
It's
somewhere,
devastating,
yeah,
mainly because of like how much these things cost, right?
yeah, exactly.
I I do want to like up the sort of horror collection a little bit because a lot of my stuff is kind of superheroes. I've got a few like horror statuettes, some stuff in boxes as well. Um, but it's nice when they're out of the box, isn't it? I know it kind of feels like sacrilege getting them out of the box, but they do look
Yeah.
good. I suppose those sort of statues are sort of made to be out of the box, aren't they?
Yeah, these
Um,
aren't massively expensive. Some of them, there's a couple of them that are, but some of these aren't too expensive. And the top shelf, I've got like lots of little Elviras and Terminator Head and stuff like that. So
oh
I've got
yeah,
more
I
horror stuff
see.
coming into it.
Yeah, we've got a couple of Elviras actually. Is it like a what doll? Is it like the doll version? Did you see that? I can't remember. If it's, is it? I don't know if it's
Got
a Monster
a
High
really
doll.
large Elvira, and then a rock candy one, and then the Toons
Yeah,
one. Yeah,
I saw that one in a shop recently. The Toons one. I think we need to add it to the collection.
yeah.
I don't know if I told you this, but as soon as you mention Elvira, I'm going to tell you, and I don't even know if I've ever mentioned it on the show. I am getting married in October in Las Vegas, being married by an Elvira lookalike.
What? That's awesome.
I'm not marrying an Elvira lookalike. I get married by an Elvira lookalike.
Incredible.
There was like a list of like lookalikes you could get, and like some were all right, you know, like a Gene Simmons and a an Ozzy Osbourne, I think was one of them. But then we were like, Elvira, that sounds absolutely stupendous. And we looked
Yeah.
at the pictures as well. It looks like a great Elvira lookalike. You know, sometimes you could be a bit like, oh, I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not so sure. So,
That's
yeah,
lovely.
literally only mentioned that because you mentioned Elvira, and you know, it's a slight flex. Uh, it's a slight flex. Why not? We have covered the first Elvira film on this show after we saw it for Forbidden Worlds Festival. Don't know. What do you think of the second one? Do you like the second one? What's it called? The
It's
Haunted
Elvira,
Hill?
so I'll watch it.
Yeah.
I covered, so there's a YouTube video that I made about 10 TV pilots that you never knew existed. And she had a TV pilot back in the day on the ABC channel, and it was just a half hour like sitcom pilot kind of thing. And I watched that as well. So it's I think the
Oh, that would
second
have been so good.
yeah, it's weird. It's like you could watch it on YouTube. It's the
Mm.
like 25-minute little pilot. It didn't feel Elvira-ish because the whole setup of a house just looked like a normal house, and for me that didn't really make sense.
Yeah,
But the
yeah,
second film, I as much as I liked it and I liked her sidekick and stuff, it just didn't have that like sort of weird 80s charm that the original one
yeah.
had.
Oh,
But yeah, it's still
loads of charm.
yeah.
And if you're listening and you haven't heard Stu on the show before, then of course he has appeared on several episodes in the past, but also he makes YouTube videos, various lists and countdowns or like recommendations and stuff. It's always good content. But yeah, listen back to Stu on the show. Little Shop of Horrors was the last episode. The Taking of Deborah Logan was the other one. Is it
Yes.
only two before this?
Yeah, just two at the minute.
Can't believe it. Cannot believe it. More in the future, of course. Okay, so this month is slightly different for for Horror Hangout podcast in the fact that we're doing brand new releases for every single week of the show because we looked at April and we were like, April's pretty stacked and late March was pretty stacked as well. So we're kind of like, we kind of want to cover these films on mainline episodes, but also we don't want to miss out on any of those. So exclusively this month is going to be brand new 2024 releases. So we've got Late Night with the Devil, which we're talking about today, now, and then Stop Motion will be next week. Also, The First Omen, and then Abigail. I don't know. Are you going to see any of these in the cinema? Do you think, Stu?
I'm definitely going to see the first Omen. I really want to see stop motion, but haven't heard too much about it.
Mm.
And I haven't seen Immaculate yet, so I really want to watch that.
Yeah. So I kind of didn't feel like I was that interested in Immaculate, but the reviews and everything kind of have made me think twice. So I think
Oh,
I am
the
going to go
reviews
check
and
it
the
out.
marketing have made me think twice
Oh
because
yeah, yeah. As it's yeah,
with the marketing, they've used loads of like tweets from sort of
yeah,
really like right-wing Christians that have gone off about the movie and the movie studio have used those as quotes on movie posters, and I thought that was pretty genius. So
yeah. No, definitely.
but yeah, I do want to watch it, and Sydney Sweeney's great. She's great in Euphoria. She was good in Nocturne, so I'll go and watch that.
Really, really strange that again, maybe I just missed everything that she was in, but I kind of didn't know who she was until Madam Web. And then someone said to me, "Oh, she's in loads of stuff. She's in, yeah. What did you say?
Euphoria
She's
is incredible.
Euphoria. That's it, which I haven't seen. Zendaya as well, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Zendaya, and like just I
Zendaya.
mean, loads of
Sorry. Yeah.
people have exploded since then because of that show, and it
Mm,
is stunning. It's a really intense show. It's not something that you can binge, I don't think.
okay.
You could probably do a couple of episodes and then you'll need a break, but it just looks like nothing else. It looks
Mm.
incredible, and it's just really creative, and she's fantastic in it. Sydney Sweeney's great.
Yeah. But then since I said, "Oh, I don't know who she is," everywhere I look, Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah.
Obviously immaculate. And I think she was like quite like she pretty much got the movie made, right? She auditioned for a part. It went into like production hell, and then she came on as like an executive producer. She did a lot of scouting of locations. I saw her share on like Instagram recently as well.
Yeah, I think she's like
So
got her own movie studio or something like that. Some kind of, I think she owns something where she can make her own movies as well. So she kind of put that behind it,
yeah,
um, which is
but yeah.
it's great. I mean, if you believe in something so much, you know, why not, kind of thing.
Hmm. And I did, yeah, I saw the tweets. Obviously, people saying that she was our darling, and now she's in a horror movie condemning. What did they say? Like it was an affront to Christianity and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But she seems to get like a lot of there's a lot of notoriety surrounding anything she does. I think
Mm.
anytime I saw her like at an award ceremony, people going, Sydney Sweeney's got breasts. Did anyone realize? And I'm
Yeah.
going, hang on a minute. Well, I mean, what
Yeah.
I don't know what you expected.
Yeah, they make a lot of focus on them in Euphoria and other things. But I mean, it's the good thing is that when she's in the movie, you can see that she's giving it her all anyway. And so whenever people bring up things like that, it's like, well, I'd be all right with them, being like, oh yeah, she looks great and everything. But then you do realize that a lot of people have to talk about her performances because she is amazing in
Mm.
a lot of projects. Like
I mean,
Nocturne.
I genuinely just think I missed, like, sometimes you've got a bit of a blind spot for certain actors,
Sure.
um, and I mean, it doesn't happen to me very often, but for some reason, Sydney Sweeney did. Nocturne, you say? For some reason,
Yeah.
when you say that, I'm thinking. Let's see if I recognize this poster. I do recognize the poster with the upside down head, right?
Yeah, it's
Um,
Amazon Prime. I think it's one of
okay.
their like
Maybe
exclusive.
I need to check this out then, if
I
that's the
really
case.
enjoyed it. It's kind of horror tinged as well. It's
Okay. Was it one of
yeah,
those films where it was like, oh, Amazon have released four horror movies like all at the same time, like on October? Was it one of those?
yeah, it was one of those where it was about a certain studio. I think I can't remember which studio. I
Okay.
think it might have been like a Blumhouse thing or something like that. Maybe I'm not sure, but it was yeah. They had like four movies that were all coming out in the space of a
Okay.
few weeks, and it was all from the same studio, and that was one of
I'll
them. And it was great.
I'll check this out. I don't know. Just by looking at it, I'm getting vibes of like, is it The Perfection? The 2018
Yeah,
movie with that prodigy, um
the
what's she
cello
like, a
player.
cello prodigy? Yeah, Alison Williams from like
Yes.
Get Out and a few other things. Yeah, okay. Well, that'll go on the list. Because unfortunately, the first thing I did see Sydney Sweeney in was Madame Web, which I watched merely because I was curious. I didn't watch it because I was. This is gonna be great.
Mm.
I don't know if you've had the pleasure. Have you had the pleasure?
No, I will wait until it's streaming, and even then, hope that it's on a streaming platform that I'm not paying for.
I tell you what, though, I mean, I don't know how you feel about this, but despite the fact it's awful, I still like had a good cinema experience because I was almost like, this is so weird and silly. I don't
You had
get it.
a Morbin time. That what it was?
Yeah, exactly. I went to cinema to watch that as well. I think like even if I kind of expect it to be bad, I've heard bad things. I'm still open to like watching it and then just kind of like picking it apart in my head because it's fascinating that in 2024 a film can get made that feels like a 2003 superhero film. Like that's a talent in itself.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that
Um,
about the Venom movies as well. They were exactly the same.
yeah,
They could have
me too.
been put next to Spawn, and all the would be any different would be,
Yeah,
the level of special effects.
the
But even
CGI, yeah.
yeah, doesn't really like live up to the standard that we used to, which is so
Mm.
bizarre considering the amount of money and time that Sony have got to put into these
Yeah.
things.
I don't know. So obviously talking about the lineup for the month. I don't. Do you know much about the movie Abigail?
Is that the one with the ballet vampire? Is that
Yeah. So I don't know if you've seen the trailer. And the
I've
only
seen
reason
a
I say this
bit
is
of
because
it.
I hadn't seen the trailer, and then I saw the trailer in the cinema, and it looks really good. I don't
Hmm.
know. I don't know if you've seen the trailer.
I've seen bits of it. I haven't seen
Okay.
the full thing.
I
I'm
was
trying
kind of
to stay away from
thinking.
certain trailers because I feel like I kind of got duped by the trailer for the Late Night with the Devil.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
before
yeah.
I get into that,
But it's got Melissa Barrera, obviously like the latest Scream movies, Catherine Newton, Dan Stevens, so like a really like heavyweight amount of like actors, and it's directed by the guys who directed the last two Scream movies as well.
cool.
Um, but yeah, it looks great. So it looks like again, if you've seen the trailer or not, but some criminals are like keep an eye. I've kidnapped a 12-year-old girl, and they're keeping her like in this house. They're keeping her there, holding her hostage essentially, and then like the whole house like shuts down, like locks them in essentially, and then it turns out she's a bloodthirsty vampire.
I love it. It sounds great already. It
It
kind of gives
sounds
me like
great.
Ready or Not vibes, as that kind of thing.
Funny you should say that. That's a fantastic segue, which of course I will take advantage of in a second. I've seen like a couple of screenshots from the film for Abigail as well. There's one where like it looks like Catherine Newton's just in a huge pile of dead bodies, like crawling her way through. I mean,
Nice.
I'm 100% into. I mean, just from seeing the concept and the poster, I was a bit like, meh, maybe, I don't know. But as soon as I watched the trailer, I was like, okay, I'm in. And I did really enjoy Dan Stevens, and I'll get to this as well. But I did enjoy Dan Stevens in Godzilla X Kong, and I
Yeah.
also heard that apparently they're starting to film The Guest too, like real soon.
What?
Um,
Okay.
yeah,
I think it's
he.
incredible in Legion, if you've ever seen that TV series. It
Oh,
is
Legion, yes, yeah, of course,
yeah,
the
it
sort of X-Men.
blows my mind. The amount of times that I've watched it and I still get surprised by just how weird it is and how like cerebral and insane. And yeah, he
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, I need. To be fair, I probably need to watch it more. I think I watched maybe like 5 or 6 episodes.
Oh, keep going.
I
It's
should probably
so
get back to it. Okay,
yeah,
okay. Oh well. Um, yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about more X-Men stuff as well. But talking about Ready or Not 2, the sequel is reportedly taking shape. With Samara Weaving, sorry, expected to return. Um, so yeah, apparently it's just some kind of like loosey goosey rumors currently happening. But Jeff Snyder reports on the In Schneider. That's a really good name for your website, isn't it? That is in development with director Adam Robitel, who directed The Taking of Deborah Logan, uh,
amazing.
Insidious: The Last Key, Escape Room, and I'm pretty sure the first one, right? Oh no, of course it was the guys who directed Scream as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What do they call themselves? Like they've got like a
Oh,
name for their director partnership. Andy
yeah,
would
I
get
can't.
this.
But
It's
it's
called like Six Sig. Oh God, I can't remember. Anyway, well, I'll find out and we'll discuss that.
yeah,
So yeah, he reports that Samara Weaving will return for Ready or Not 2, once again playing the character Grace. Um, Interesting to see where that potentially would go because it's almost like a very she was kind of thrust into this situation. I guess it feels like I don't know, taking down whoever else is doing these things. I don't know. Um,
yeah. It felt like a sort of complete story in the last one. I wasn't expecting a sequel. I'm not going to lie. So it'll be interesting to see if she ends up like falling prey to something similar. And she's just like, oh, for fuck's sake, not this again.
oh
But
bloody hell! Like
God,
like John McClane. I was just a wrong what was it the wrong place? I was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
yeah,
Again and
again.
again. Oh, and again. Oh no. 5 times this has happened to me. Jesus. Um I feel like I had the answer for Radio Silence. That's it. That's what they call
Okay,
themselves.
yeah.
Filmmaking collective. It's Tyler Gillett or maybe Gillet. Matt Bettinelli Olpin. So yeah, they directed the original Ready or Not. And that Adam Robitel. I was gonna say I feel like we've mentioned his name on the show before, but I guess we would have if we've done Taking a Deborah Logan.
Yeah,
Uh, Escape Room movies. Did you see any of those?
I haven't yet. No, were they any good?
I mean, not really. I think that some of the escape room designs are good, but there's like one bit where they're like a room that's upside down, and
No.
then just like trapdoors are opening. That's pretty cool. And people are hanging off of things. But apart from that, story not so much. But escape room similar, where it's like escape room, terrible things happen to some people. Escape room two, those people who survived are going to take down who's behind the whole operation.
Uh,
I guess in a similar way to how this could work, or how like Squid Game series 2 is apparently going to work. Apparently,
hmm,
I don't
okay.
know. So yeah, I've got a couple of other sequels to talk about actually as well. So Fear Street Prom Queen is going to be the next R.L. Stein horror movie with an ensemble cast, including India Fowler, Susanna Sun, Fina Stratzer. I'm trying to find a name I recognize. Catherine Waterston. That's what I was thinking. She is in wait, Alien, the Alien Covenant, I think. Yeah, that's right. She's like the she's basically this is Ripley. This isn't Ripley, but I mean it's Ripley.
Then it is.
Yeah, we've got a new one. Yeah, she's yeah. So yeah, I don't know if you did you see the Fear Street trilogy? 2021 that came out on Netflix.
Yeah, I did. I remember I really liked the very first one. Um, And also, I have to admit, I didn't watch them until I'd watched. So there's a couple of drag queens from Drag Race called Trixie and Katya who are paid by Netflix to watch things and then just roast them. And
I'm pretty sure I've seen like
yeah,
some of
yeah,
that.
yeah. So they did a whole episode on that, and it cracked me up. And I was like, well, I've got to watch them now. This looks great. So
What
sometimes I won't watch it if I'm gonna be watching it anyway, and that I
yeah.
won't watch them spoiling it. But yeah, that just made it better for me. But yeah, Fifth Street trilogy, I
So were
really,
so were they fans? Did they do the whole trilogy?
yeah, I think they maybe watched the first one. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've seen that episode, but yeah, it kind of made me like enjoy them a bit more, to be honest, just because I was
We
laughing.
we did do an episode where we covered all three of them in one episode, which was pretty nuts. I remember liking the kind of summer camp one the most, if I remember correctly.
Right.
Um, I think it's because it had I don't know. There's something about it I kind of enjoyed a little bit more. I think 94 was fine. I don't really remember much about the 1666 one.
Yeah,
I
me
feel
either.
like that's the one that's kind of like I've forgotten about. But yeah, so that just a single movie based on the book Fear Street Prom Queen. I recognize the cover of this. It's got quite a distinctive cover. It's kind of like a prom queen looking in, I guess, a mirror, but she's got a skeleton face.
Nice.
Nice classic. Yeah, we've all been there. We've all been there, especially on prom night.
Hate it when that
Oh,
happens.
I want to look at my best. So I think so. Welcome to Shady Side. The next installment of the blood-soaked Fear Street franchise prom season at Shady Side High is underway, and the school's wolf pack of it girls is busy with its usual sweet and vicious campaigns for the crown. This is a really long synopsis. I'm sorry. Uh, a gutsy outsider is unexpectedly nominated to the court. Oh, I love how this is written, though. And the other girls start mysteriously disappearing. The class of '88 is suddenly in for one hell of a prom night. So I guess like they did 94, 78, 1666. They kind of missed out the 80s. So go back and set one in the 80s. Why not? Um, I wonder what kind of what role Catherine Waterston would play then, because she's a teacher, maybe a teacher,
Yeah, I guess
possibly.
like principal vibes or something, you know.
Yeah, they're not going to do that thing like in Greece where they've got like 35-year-old people playing teenagers.
Yeah, teenage witch who was never a
There,
teen.
yeah, right. Okay. There's one of Danny Zuko's lot. What are they called?
The T-birds, yeah.
There's what he's 50. I
Yeah,
think you know which one I mean as well. Hang on a minute. What's going on here?
yeah, he's
That's
about to
not
collect his bus pass and he's still in high school. Like, he must be really dumb.
He's just kept being kept back every year. And another piece of sequel news, but the headline's got a question mark in it, so I don't think it's news, it's more speculation. But the producer of the new Hellraiser movie is speculating here on Hellraiser 2, which came out 2 years ago. Again, that feels kind of crazy. What is going on with time? But he says we're trying to do a follow-up, and there have been conversations. I can't exactly say where we are in those conversations, but David Bruckner is involved in those conversations. He says conversations loads in that sentence. But yeah, did you see this one? I think you
I
did, didn't you?
loved
Did you?
it. I
Oh, you
ab
loved it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a big Hellraiser fan anyway. I've read some of the comics and even
Oh,
have
sweet.
some of the later ones that we don't talk about on DVD.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I loved the new one. I thought it was just like, I mean, the Cenobites looked amazing. They were just really creative. And it was like a nice story as well. It had some like cool queer characters in it. It was just a fun movie for me. Did you like it?
Yeah. I remember thinking it was all right. Like I'm not like the biggest. I mean, I really do like the original Hellraiser. I like a load of Clive Barker's works, I like loads of his books as well. But I wouldn't say like I'm a huge Hellraiser fanboy. But I remember enjoying it for what it was. I thought Jamie Clayton was good as the brand new like Hell Priest. A lot of the Cenobite designs were great. They were really effective, really quite scary. I can't remember. There was definitely something about the plot that I was a bit iffy on. I can't remember what it was exactly.
Mm.
But yeah, I'd be well up for another version, because I think it's a great world. And the Cenobites are gnarly, and I think they make some really great cinematic moments. and one-liners. You know, that's always good fun. Uh,
Yeah, nothing
but
like
I
it,
think,
is there really?
yeah, no, no, of course not. And I feel like, and now Luke, when Luke was on the show every single week, I don't want to talk about him like he's passed on. He's not. He's alive and well. But he was always like predicting the Clive Barker resurgence. Like Clive Barker, every property he's ever done are going to be turned into things. And we had a couple of things. We had Books of Blood, which I think was on Hulu as well.
Mm.
But yeah, I think they're just ripe for the picking. I know it's a bit like, oh, leave his books are fine, leave him alone. But I think there's so many great characters, great worlds. Um, and I think Hellraiser, yeah, is great. But I genuinely would like to see, because it's very British, isn't it? The first one, it feels very, even though it's set in America. I think the book, The Hellbound Heart, is kind of like a British set. I'd just love to see a sort of like a UK. Imagine some
Mm.
like gnarly UK Cenobites. I don't mean like Cockney Pinhead or anything like that. But yeah, but I just something I feel like it lends itself to that sort of world a little bit. Something like dingy, and I keep describing the UK like that lately, but you know what I mean.
I really do. Yeah, I think it would be great. I mean, I'm well up for another Hellraiser movie anyway, especially if it's in that world. But
Mm.
I mean, Nightbreed is one of my favorite horrors of all time,
Yeah, yeah,
and I think that is due for some kind of remake, whether it's a TV series, because there's so much to do in that world, kind of
yeah,
thing. Yeah, I mean, anything like that with Clive Barker, I'm down with, to be honest.
yeah, definitely. But I think what I'm saying is, yeah, hopefully that resurgence that Luke predicted, that we kind of saw a bit of. I kind of want it to take off a little bit more. And I don't mean like every single thing he's ever written
Mm.
adapted, but it'd be nice to see just a few more things because I think Clive Barker, there is more than Hellraiser. So it would be great to see other things,
Yeah.
Nightbreed, or whatever else we can get. That is it for horror news. I guess we should discuss what we've been watching. As I mentioned to you before we start recording, bit of a light week for me. Not really sure why. But one thing we should definitely discuss, even though it's not horror, you could say there are some horror adjacent things occasionally with certain villains. But let's talk very briefly about X-Men 97, which I'm assuming we've both seen and we're both up to date. There's only three episodes so far,
I
right?
mean, the latest episode, the episode 3, was very horror influenced, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
It had,
Have we seen that story told in any way in the old X-Men cartoons? So I can't remember. Of course, it exists in numerous forms in the comics.
yeah.
But I was kind of thinking, I don't think we've seen this before in X-Men,
No, no.
the
I mean,
animated show.
it's a follow on, so I guess they wouldn't repeat it anyway, would they? I suppose. But it's
Yeah,
yeah, the
good point.
Inferno story. I mean, it's pretty iconic in the comics, but I just can't believe how quickly they got through it. Like it was breakneck speed, like
Yeah, that's true.
30-minute episode that got all the way through. An adaptation of Inferno was pretty impressive. I'm loving it. I think the writing's great. The way that they've done certain people's powers to make people kind of level up a little bit. Like, the way
Hmm.
Cyclops was moving around with his optic blasts and
Oh
stuff
yeah,
in the first episode. It's just
that was
really,
cool.
yeah, it was great. I mean, yeah, it's exactly what I wanted from a sort of a reboot
Hmm.
or a sequel series. Really, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens and where it's going because I'm guessing they're going to do like the love death story with Storm because Forge has just popped up.
Yep.
Yeah, are you enjoying it? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I think when the original series went on to Disney Plus, I think I maybe watched the first couple of series, but it's kind of made me go, oh, I probably need to go and watch this again. I think it's like it's such a mature like animated show, isn't it? And the stories, they don't skimp on like the the real difficult stories to tell and like the real heart-wrenching stuff and the um but yeah, so with the whole Madeline Pryor stuff, again, I was kind of shocked to see it happen at this point, but also like it happened so again, yeah, it happened so quickly. And of
Yeah,
course, I have Magneto in the team. I know these are of course slight spoilers for this, but still. It is canon to the original animated series and it is like a direct follow on, but there is like a little bit of space where certain things have happened, right? Because is that
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Because obviously Madeline became pregnant, and it was a whole
Yeah.
yeah. There's been some time between, but I mean, I like the fact that it kind of feels like it's followed on and also kept a lot of the old storylines in our
Hmm.
fresh in our minds kind of thing. It's still kind of going through some of
Yeah.
like the Sentinels in the first episode and things like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just been done really well, isn't it? That's the
Mhm.
good thing. I mean, I think
Definitely.
we were really spoilt with the cartoons in the 90s that did feel really adult, like Batman the Animated Series and the Spider-Man animated series and X-Men, where
Mm.
you felt like you were you were being entertained, but also you felt like you were a little bit grown up by watching this. This is
Yeah.
this is like a little bit over my head, but it's great kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
I'm glad that they stuck with that as well.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, 100%. It's been really well done so far. Um, really enjoying it. I kind of like it when things are kind of episodic, where you have to wait a week for the next one. That's kind of cool because I don't mind binge watching some things, but I do think you lose a little bit of it when you binge watch it, especially with something like an animated show where they do try and fit a lot of story into like 30 minutes or something, don't they? Um, did you watch Wolverine and the X-Men, that animated show as well?
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I didn't so much like X-Men Evolution, but Wolverine and the X-Men I did really enjoy and
Oh
was a
yeah,
bit
X-Men
gutted that it
Evolution.
ended on a massive cliffhanger at the end of Wolverine and the X-Men, then it got cancelled. Um,
God, I don't even remember.
yeah,
I remember
they
it got cancelled, but I don't remember the cliffhanger.
yeah, the big cliffhanger at the end was the Age of Apocalypse. They went to
Okay.
the whole Age of Apocalypse storyline, and yeah, you just saw the sort of the main characters of it. It's like I think it was like Cyclops, Mister Sinister, and Apocalypse turned up, and then
Yeah.
cut to black, and you're like, ah, damn it,
Ah, man.
that is gone.
How do you feel about Gambit's crop top?
Well, it was the 90s.
It
There was
sure was.
There was a lot of dudes in crop tops in the 90s, and I must admit that was like one of the highlights of that episode for me. I was like, hey,
It
he
sure
looks
was.
great. Fair play to the guy.
Oh man, yeah. The thing is, we're gonna see plenty of people dressed as that at various Comic Cons and stuff, aren't we? We're gonna see Gambit. But anyone complaining, I think, just have a look at Gambit's day to day outfit. Like, I wouldn't say he's like the. Do you know what I mean? He's
Yeah.
no one's looking at him going, "Hang on a minute, he's dressed like that's a real man." That is. No
Yeah.
one's.
It's constantly in hot pink, the guy. Like, fair play to him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And there was a great moment as well where like he charged Wolverine's claws. I know that's happened a few times, but I think that's always one of my favorite. It's such a shame we haven't seen like a real legit like main character Gambit in any of the movies yet. I
Yeah.
know there was going to be a Channing Tatum Gambit, wasn't there? But
Yeah, he was
is
in
that been shelved like
he was in
completely?
Wolverine Origins, wasn't he? He was in the Wolverine movie.
Oh yeah, yeah, he was played by the dude who plays John Carter in that John
Yeah,
Carter
that's it.
movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then yeah, there was a Channing Tatum thing that was sort of rumored for a little while, but I just think, I mean, they can't deny now how successful it is and how much people have been waiting for this. So I think the
Yeah.
MCU kind of needs to like pivot and just do X-Men. Just start it up.
Yeah.
Just crack on
Oh, that
now.
would be so good. But I'm looking forward to it. I know that we've already had some kind of like X-Men characters a little bit, and if you saw obviously the Marvels, and we won't spoil exactly what the end credit scene was, but yeah, um, yeah, and then obviously we've got Deadpool and Wolverine turning up soon. This year, I guess. Yeah, this year,
July.
July. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited to see what we get with X-Men movies because yeah, I mean, the last few unfortunately weren't great. But I feel like even one, two, and Last Stand still a lot of fun to be had if you go back to them and watch them. And obviously, First Class is great as well.
I loved
Uh,
Days of Future Past. I think that's an absolute hidden gem, especially the rogue cut of it as well. The like
oh, of course, yeah, yeah. Oh, did you say Days of Future Past?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love that.
So it's kind of unfortunate because obviously the animated show already did that, didn't it?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it'd be
And they
nice
did
to
it
see that.
kind of the same as well. They didn't do it properly either. They didn't
Mm.
send like Kitty Pryde into the past like they did in
Yeah,
the comics. So it was always about Wolverine.
yeah. But then what else have we got? Oh yeah, Apocalypse and then Dark Phoenix. That's the two I was thinking of. Is it called Dark Phoenix or just Phoenix?
It was Dark
Dark
Phoenix.
Phoenix.
Yeah, it was just
Yeah,
awful.
that was iffy, wasn't it? Yeah. So super enjoying X-Men '97. looking forward to watching more of that. And I guess, sorry, I didn't mean to jump in and tell you what I've been watching, but the only other thing I watched was Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire, um, which was perfectly fine. You know, it was probably like the dumbest exposition heavy script of the year, and that's even including Imaginary, which had some terrible like exposition in it. Like, you know, this thing that's happening on the screen. Yeah, here's someone explaining it for 30 seconds. Oh yeah, okay. I'm glad about that. Pink Godzilla's great. King Kong is great. There's like a little Kong who gets used as a nunchuck at one point. Um, there's lots to enjoy. I think it's a fun film. I feel like, I mean, I saw Ghostbusters Frozen Empire the week before, and that felt like, I feel like Godzilla X Kong knew it was dumb, so like it was more fun because of that. Whereas
Right. Okay.
whereas Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, I feel like was kind of struggling with its identity a little bit,
Okay.
which kind of made it a little bit less enjoyable.
Do we get
Um,
Godzuki yet? That's what I want to know. Where's the little baby Godzilla?
Godzuki, oh Godzuki, come
Damn it.
on!
Showing
I
my age.
mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but no, but no, you don't. But I feel like it's opened up this world because think about it. What's kind of crazy is these MonsterVerse movies. This is like the fifth one, which
Yeah,
really it doesn't necessarily feel like that. But I feel like they've opened up the universe enough now that they can get anything involved. Godzuki, they've got kind of like a. It's not really a baby Kong. People have been referring to it as baby Kong. It's not. It's just a little,
little monkey.
just a little monkey lad.
Yeah. I
Little
saw
monkey
a
lad.
really great kind of April Fool's thing where it was just announced Godzilla X Kong X Megan. And
Oh my God. Jesus. I mean,
so
you
that's
know,
pushing it.
someone out there might want to see it.
I mean,
Uh,
yeah, I would definitely pay to see that.
yeah, that could be pretty good. We're getting a Megan 2 as well, right? That's confirmed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Have you seen anything else that you wanted to mention this
Uh,
week or
so
recently?
recently, I have been watching loads of alien horror movies, and I don't mean like xenomorph ones, because I'm
Mm.
making a an alien horror movies top 10 list, like recommendations.
Oh yeah, awesome.
I've been watching loads of movies just to try and figure out because the thing that I do on my YouTube, as you know, is try and find like niche movies or ones that haven't got as much publicity and things like that, or ones that are just not as well known, little hidden gems. I watched a Russian alien movie called Sputnik.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I think
and
I've
I
seen that.
really enjoyed that. I watched that a couple of nights ago. I won't go into all the others that I've been watching because I've watched some shite and I've watched some great ones. But Sputnik was probably the
Yeah.
highlight, probably one of the best ones I've seen. The effects were really, really good. Um,
If you're giving us a shit one, you got sorry, giving us a good one, you got to give us a shit one as well.
oh God, I mean, I did put myself through the Species films again, which 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 didn't really live up
How many
to.
how many are there? Oh, four?
I've seen two. I think there's
Yeah.
three, maybe. But I've watched two, and I was like, I can't, in good conscience, recommend these.
Four. There've been
um,
four.
oh,
So Species 2 is still Natasha Henstridge, isn't it?
yes, yeah, yeah,
Three, I think they go, we're gonna have to get someone else
yeah.
of a different caliber for that. I don't know. I can't recognize it from the poster.
No,
And the fourth one's called Species: The Awakening,
no, of course it is.
which definitely just looks like a porno, the poster, but it's obviously not.
I mean, the first two were pretty much pornos as well.
What if you get shagged by an alien? Well, what?
Yeah,
No.
and what?
In the pool as well.
Yeah,
I remember being kind of scared of it, the first one,
yeah,
because I think it was pre any level of sexual awakening for me. So I think I was still like scary.
yeah.
This is
She looks
this is
weird. I don't like it.
looks bloody disgusting. And at the end as well, I remember it being in like, was there a bit like in a cave at the end?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we've done it on the show.
Probably, yeah. I'll have to go back through it and listen to that episode if you have, because I'd love to hear your thoughts. Because mine was like
Episode
was
episode 172. I think John Crinnan joined us for that. Um yeah. What an absolute belter. So you're saying not so good then? Not so good.
no, it wasn't great. And I watched Censor. If you've seen that movie,
Yes. Yes,
I
yes,
quite
yes.
enjoyed that. Yeah, I watched that on All Four the other day. They loved their adverts on All Four, but I got through it. Um, and I thought that was all right actually. It was cool. It was a bit tropey in places, but it was just really like well made. And it
Yeah.
was, as someone who'd sort of lived through the 80s and knew about all the like, horror nasties and all that stuff, it was
Mm.
quite fun to watch that. And I
Mm.
am doing a rewatch of Nip Tuck at the minute, the TV show, which is
Oh,
kind of
wow. Yes.
um and just reveling in the sheer amount of cameos that are in that. It's a
Oh, really?
ridiculous
Like sort
number
of
of
like
famous people.
Hollywood. Do you think a lot of them were like people before they like made it big and they were kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
just
So
having a
I've just started season 5, and Bradley Cooper's in it, and he's a series regular, and like Jennifer Coolidge and Rosie O'Donnell, Portia de Rossi, like
Jennifer Coolidge?
it's insane the amount of people that have been in it. I know that like later on, Katie Sackhoff's in it, and Rose McGowan and people like that. It's just loads
Oh,
of
wow.
famous
Okay.
people that have been in this show. Um, and season 3 was very sort of horror adjacent. It had like a sort of serial killer in it, and it was a whole
Mm.
whodunit season. That's probably my favorite one. That's the best. But yeah, that's
Doctor
what I've been.
Doom.
Yes, yeah. So Julian McMahon is one of the main characters in Old
That's
Doctor
it.
Who.
That's it. Yeah.
So yeah, I've been really enjoying that. The funny thing is, I went back to my mum's for Mother's Day, and I knew that I had all the box sets at my mum's. So I was like, I'm gonna
Oh,
bring
yeah.
start watching them. And then the day that I got back, it popped up on my Amazon Prime saying, "Hey, we're recommending this for you." I was like, didn't need to bring them back.
Ah, but still, must be something
Yeah,
nice about watching it on uh, DVD quality, though. I'm assuming that's
yeah,
what it was.
yeah, exactly.
Peter Dinklage is in it as well. Sarah
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Paulson.
He was in it in season 4, I think. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
Yes.
loads of cameos. J.K. Simmons. I'm pretty sure I've seen maybe just one series of it. Um. Oh yeah, Bradley Cooper. I reckon. See, I think I've seen that Bradley Cooper episode. I remember him having the kind of like he like broke his what happened to him? Broke his back or something?
He is in, so he's the plays an actor in a series, in a TV series, in the TV series. So he's
Got you.
like um in a sort of plastic surgeon's role in this TV series, and
Hmm.
they're trying to teach him how to look more authentic, and he's just a real
Got you.
deep and stuff. And it's meant to be a sort of really campy TV series that he's in as well, so it kind of plays on that a
Yeah.
bit.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's wild, and like X-Men, in one episode they get through so much in
Oh
one
yeah, just
episode.
flying through.
Yeah, it's just like breakneck speed through all the drama. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's just fun. I mean, there's some things that haven't aged well, but that happens with stuff. And yeah,
Hmm.
it's just fun. I'm really enjoying like going back through it. I know it has a bit of a clunky end. I remember that, but it's
Hmm.
still one that I'd recommend highly if anyone hasn't seen it.
Awesome. That's a blast from the past. That is. And then I guess just the movie of the week, right?
That's the one.
That's the one. Yeah, so, film of the week, which is Late Night with the Devil, which is a 2023, but of course we've seen it in 2024, supernatural horror film written, directed, and edited by Cameron and Colin Cairnes. Starring David Dastmalchian, Laura Gordon, Ian Bliss, Fayssal Bazzi, Ingrid Torelli, loads of other names. I'm not going to read everyone out. That's madness. Framed as a found footage film of a documentary prologue, it focuses on a Halloween night in 1977, and it's a talk show episode in which the host, the ambitious Jack Delroy, invites a possessed girl, possessed, it says, onto the program in an attempt to boost ratings. Okay, talking about ratings, it has got a 7.5 out of 10 on IMDb. Listen to this, Stu. Rotten Tomatoes, 97% audience score. God damn. 82% critic score. And on Letterboxd, 3.6 out of 5. And a few choice reviews from Letterboxd. Sam Bennett says, this is a fucking horror movie. 4.5 stars.
Wow, Sam.
Silent Dawn struggled at times with its insistence on being both a narrative and a found object. Still, it has morbid fun with the premise, and seeing David Dastmalchian thriving as the lead is wonderful. He's an astonishing actor. 3 stars. Kylo says, this was actually a really well produced late night talk show if you look past the devil killing a few guests. 3.5 stars. And Edgy Marie,
Wow.
amazing performances dragged down by the use of AI Don't let this shit slide. This is an insult to artists. Half a star. Now,
Oh, so
half a star, I think I reserve for things like Alone in the Dark, and other Uwe Boll
I mean, come on.
movies. I don't
Yeah.
think I've given half a star to many others. So that's pretty insane. I feel like they probably thought the film was great, but just the AI thing. So we will off the bat mention the AI thing just because it's received quite a lot of traction in the last couple of weeks. Obviously there's a lot of discourse surrounding it. There are some AI generated like art title cards that kind of happen throughout the film. Like apparently it's free still image inserts throughout the film. But I think there's been a few rumors about some other things possibly being AI generated, like background art and various other things like that. We kind of spoke about it first where we said we didn't really notice. Like you said, you didn't really notice.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
don't
I
think
didn't
it.
know about it before I went in, and then it wasn't until a couple of days after that I saw all the controversy, and then
Yes.
it kind of like it made sense, but I really had to read a couple of articles to figure out what was AI. When they started to say the title cards, I was like, oh, okay, well, I mean, it's not like the whole of the intro, like Marvel's Secret Invasion, where everyone kicked off about that as well.
Oh yeah, of course. Oh my God, I completely forgot about that. That is
Yeah.
because Marvel Secret Invasion, it utilized a very specific early like AI look, which
Mm,
was like I think now AI has probably gone on a little bit. So some of the things you see occasionally, you can kind of look past it. Not saying it's good, it's not good.
mm.
But the Secret Invasion thing was bad because it just looked like all of those AI images you see of like people sharing on Facebook, like look at this beautiful dog, absolutely lovely, and you're just like, AI, what's going on there? It
Why
looked
has it
like
got
that,
six
which is pretty
thumbs?
bad. I guess with Secret Invasion, were they doing something where they were like, oh, it's a computer replicating, like it's kind of a bit like the Scrolls, where they're kind of like replicating what humans are.
Yeah, I think that's what they were going for, but I think it kind of landed a bit flat, like the rest of the series, really. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think I mean, the AI in Late Night with the Devil, I don't know why they did it. I'm not sure what the reason was. I don't think it was necessary, but then again, you don't know how many different iterations it went through to get to where they were happy with it. So I don't know
Mm.
whether, it obviously could have been done by a graphic designer. So I'll be interested to see what they think of it or why their sort of reasoning behind it was.
Yeah, this is the thing. I don't know whether it was like a budget thing or whether like apparently because apparently there was a graphics and production design team that's been confirmed, which is kind of mad when you think of it like that because surely someone in the design team would have gone, hang on a minute. So I didn't know about it before I saw the film. But when I was watching it, as I mentioned to you, I think I had like a very fleeting thought where I was like, "Oh, that looks a bit AI."
Well,
But it didn't. And again, maybe that's just me. I think I was quite invested in the film and enjoying it. If I wasn't enjoying the film, maybe I would have gone, AI? Oh my God, even worse. Because I was enjoying the film, I was just a bit like, oh, is that AI? Oh, and then the next bit, so I'm kind of forgotten. Silly me. Um, but yeah, there has been a bit of a response from the directors, and then David Dastmalchian said, he says the director said it really well, and he stands by what they said, and completely stands by this movie as a thoroughly original piece of work that so many hours went into. And I think that is the frustrating thing,
mm,
is that this is kind of a bit annoying that it's kind of taking the shine off of the film a little bit. And this is me from my personal point of view. I did really enjoy it. So to see the discussion be about the AI stuff is annoying. And it's almost like, of course, if they knew that this was going to be the reaction, and also there apparently the scenes weren't present in the version that was screened at SW. Is that you say it? SWX? Oh, what?
South
I'm
by
trying.
Southwest.
I always go to say the Bristol venue. SWX in Bristol, innit? Yeah, that's right. Well, it showed there, did it? That's weird. Uh, and apparently, like some people call for a boycott of the film because of it. I think, like, if at the very least, it shows a little bit of naivety from the filmmakers, but also maybe when they were making the film and they were trying to, like, I hate to say it, but some people probably do cut corners,
Mm,
hit a deadline, do something. Someone's made not a great decision and signed off on something that isn't great. Bearing in mind, an artist could make these images in a day for not a lot. probably. Not to say don't
Or
pay your artists, not saying
or
that.
did they do it because they knew that people would kick off about it?
That
I'm
is
just saying.
also an interesting point to make.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think part of me feels like they didn't because, like, when your artistic integrity gets called, that isn't like good press, is it? Like, everyone's talking about it. Yeah, everyone's kicking off about it. I feel like if they weren't present in the version they screened, they were obviously. This is how I imagine it, and you can say this is ridiculous. I bet you it was just them two editing it. And those two, for some reason, maybe were a bit naive about AI, and they went, "Let's just make something and slam it in there. Edit, done, it's out."
Right, right. Yeah.
It strikes me as a decision made by one or two people rather than like a whole team, because I feel like someone in the team would go, "People are really hating on AI in 2024,"
Mm.
and for good reason, of course.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was and they probably wouldn't admit it because it makes film feel like a very like segregated thing, but I feel like those decisions do happen
Mm.
where it's just two people sat in a room, editing it, or maybe they've got an editor and they make the final cut and they go, let's just slam these in there. Great. Yep. See you later. Bye.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
then,
in terms of the actual title cards themselves, I'm not saying about the actual artwork, but having title cards made it feel a little bit more authentic in
yeah.
terms of like, cutting to an ad break and things like that. So if they were added on afterwards, it was a good thought to add them. It
Yeah.
did make it feel like more of a sort of episode of TV. Did they need to be AI? Of course not. But now that they are, it's, there's no getting away from it. And will they release a version of it without? Who knows? I don't know.
Late Night with the Devil, non AI version.
Yeah, here you go. Are you happy now? Version.
Oh yeah, happy now, yeah. I think it is just one of those things, obviously, like initially when I was a bit unsure of what the technology was, I didn't really have a strong opinion on it. But I think as time goes on and you realize that like, yeah, it does kind of like steal art from elsewhere and sort of create this thing. And also like there's something about it. Like I find it really easy to identify. Um I don't know. There's just like a certain look about it, and it has ruined a lot of things for me because there's a part of my brain that looks for it being AI first before I even any piece of art I look at. I go, is it AI? No, and that annoys me. The fact that my brain is doing that because I'm like, oh, I wish I could just look at it and go, wow, amazing, instead of going, wow, that's amazing. Is it AI?
Yeah.
That's annoying. I want to
Yeah,
enjoy
that's
like what
amazing. Or is it?
or is it? Yeah, I want to enjoy what people like. Can you imagine like hearing a piece of music and going like, "Oh yeah, yeah, that's great," or is it like
Yeah,
that's horrible?
yeah. Or is it a robot? Yeah, I
Or
don't know.
is this artist cancelled retrospectively? Do I need to go and have a look to see? I'm really enjoying this music. Let's have a look. What have they done? What have they said? Oh, for God's sake!
God damn it, they're a Cylon.
I
Um,
can't listen to
yeah,
this ever again.
Skynet, god damn. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, like I said, I didn't have that going into it, so it didn't really sort of change my experience. I think the trailer changed my experience, but we'll get to that
Yeah,
later.
I think
Um,
this is good because I think a lot of the time me and Andy have kind of similar um experience, similar opinions on films, and I guess that's maybe because we've done so many episodes together, and like I think our tastes have kind of like somehow run parallel in a way. So like if we really don't like something, it tends to be both of us, or if we're like middling, it's the same. It's good to get someone on the show who's maybe got a slightly different opinion, so they can tell me I'm totally wrong.
I wish
Yeah,
I
but
were.
it was a trailer though, yeah. But you were a
Yeah,
bit,
for some reason, I mean, the people sent me the trailer, saying like, "Oh, have you seen this?" And instantly, I was like, "This looks incredible." It's found footage, which is like, one of the subgenres that I love the most in horror. I've done several found footage lists on YouTube, and they always seem to be my most popular videos. So
mm,
so those movies are the ones that I'm drawn to instantly, and for me, that made me really excited. And the fact that it was like a sort of 70s, but felt like Ghost Watch that
mm,
kind of thing. And I was just, yeah, really excited about it going in. And then as I was watching the film, and I suppose we'll go into this a little bit more, but as I was watching the film, I was like, well, I'm kind of waiting for it to be scary, first of all, because there wasn't really anything that particularly was tense or scary for me. Um, and also, it kind of took away from the found footageness when they kept cutting to the sort of black and white scenes in
Yeah.
between. Because that clearly wasn't found footage anymore, and that took me out of it, and that really frustrated me.
Mm.
So it's not that I thought it was a bad film. I just didn't really think it was that good either. And then to see everyone just kind of shower it with so much praise afterwards, and I was like, did I watch the same thing? Am I the problem? But
Am I the How
yeah,
did you feel about the kind of like prologue, which was kind of like a bit of a documentary that gave us a bit of an understanding of Jack Delroy? Do you think that was good? Because I've seen a few people say like that maybe was too much because it kind of gave us obviously a warning. We will be spoiling pretty much the whole of this film. It gave us kind of a bit of information, especially about the kind of like cult stuff and
yeah,
obviously the stuff with his wife. It kind of established all of that early on.
yeah. Which
Yeah,
is it was good. I mean, for me, I watched a movie called Antrim recently. Have you seen that yet? And
I don't
that
think so.
is
No.
okay. So that is pretty much the same kind of premise where it was a movie that was made in the 70s, and apparently it's sort of cursed and satanic, and if you watch it, you end up dying.
Okay.
That is bookended by documentary about it. So it's like a sort of
Okay.
mockumentary thing at the beginning and at the end, just saying at the beginning it's sort of giving you the premise of what's going on, and then it comes up with a title card saying what you're about to watch is Antrim in its entirety. You have been warned. You've got 30 seconds to turn it off, that kind of thing. And the more I
Yeah.
was watching it, the more I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna die. This is it. This is it now."
This is the
Um,
end.
yeah, yeah, this is it. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. And I think because I watched that only a few weeks ago and then watched Late Night with the Devil, I was kind of like, "Oh, this is giving Antrim vibes. This is going to be quite cool." Um, and the beginning kind of set up a few things, but I don't think like some of it paid off towards the end. I don't think the
Mm.
cult stuff, which was giving very cult about a Court of Owls kind of thing from Batman.
Yeah. Oh, it was, yeah, because there was like an owl sort of
Yeah,
mask going on,
an
wasn't there?
owl
Yeah.
cult. But yeah, I think I liked the fact that it had that bit at the beginning that gave you that sort of backstory about him more than anything, and it gave you
Mm.
his kind of character. But I think they could have given you a lot of that by just having a better script and showing his character throughout the way that they
Yeah,
were
yeah,
doing.
yeah. I know what you
Um,
mean.
I will say the sheer amount of distribution houses at the beginning of the movie,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That
like
was insane.
there was an audible laugh from several people in the audience in
Yeah,
the
what's going
cinema.
There's at
It
least
didn't
10, right?
stop. It just kept going and going. And I mean,
Yeah.
anything that's Shudder, I'm like, go off. I love the fact that Shudder's doing bits now. It's great, but
Mm.
um, yeah, it just felt like it was never going to end. And I respect the hustle, the amount of houses that they went to get this distributed, but it was a lot. It was
Yeah.
quite.
Yeah, it was
Um,
insane. There was like it was probably about 10, I think. Um yeah, I mean I like Ghost Watch. I think Ghost Watch is great. It's not like my out and out favorite thing in the world. I think it's a very again a very British experience. Obviously, if you're growing up around light entertainment in the UK and Michael Parkinson and stuff like that, like it has a certain something about it which is great. And there were some parallels with it, not just the TV show stuff, but also like Mr. Wriggles and Pipes. The fact that there's like a little bit of a I know it's not a possession as such, but the devil or the spirit or the antagonist has got like a bit of a cutesy nickname.
yeah,
But I kind of like, I think because I wasn't taking it. I mean, I'm not saying you were doing this, Stu, but I wasn't taking it seriously really throughout. I was kind of, I didn't expect too much in the realms of scares. However, the possession sequence I think is really well done. I did find that great. Certain use of CGI towards the end as well, I thought was really unique. It didn't look amazing, but I think it felt like it was a kind of unique take on it. I'm just sorry, I'm looking at your face while I'm talking like this. Quietly judging me.
but
I've like
I mean,
David
the effects are a little
Dasmalchian.
bit, yeah.
David Dastmalchian, I think, is great. I don't
Yes.
think he's playing it quite straight though. He's not doing anything too mad in this
Mm.
film. He's the final sequence, I guess, is where he gets to like flex the acting chops a little bit more. Um, I don't know. I just find, sometimes when the vibes of something, the supporting cast, you're kind of just like you're in for the ride. Like I find it so easy to be super cynical about films and sort of settle into that sort of frame of mind. I do it a lot when I watch lots of films. I settle into a cynical frame of mind and I'd be like, yeah. But rarely, not rarely, but occasionally a film comes along where it, I can't settle into that frame of mind. It's like I'm just invested, like
Right.
from and in terms of the trailer, I don't think I saw a trailer. I think I only saw like a 30-second little snippet and maybe a few other things. I'm a sucker for a possession story as well. I feel like even in some of the worst films where there are possession stories, the scene of the possession always gets me, always makes me feel a bit creeped out. Um, that's just something that I find quite spooky. So no matter how hammy it seems, how over the top, how silly, how regurgitated, like we've seen it a million times before, can we speak to you, please, demon? Like I something about it just always does get me. There are a couple of weird flashes of like the face as well, which I find a bit like, ooh,
Yeah,
you
there
know,
was that one flash of the face where it's sort of all the it looks like Melina from Mortal Kombat 9. There's just loads of teeth there.
yeah. And I think
And
that's
that
been
was great. I was hoping that we were going to get a bit
more of
more of
that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
maybe I
don't know.
didn't get the vibe. Maybe
Yeah.
I think I went into it expecting something that was truly like unnerving and disturbing, and
Mm.
what I got was like campiness that I didn't really pick up on until
Yeah.
and then when all the sort of, I mean, some of the special effects towards the end, it was kind of Charmed vibes. It wasn't like, you know,
But that
it,
was what was weird because it was almost like I could almost see past it because it was like this 70s set, almost like analog sort of thing. And like
right.
it was unique, if anything,
Yeah. Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely.
Especially we've seen stuff like that in maybe like the VHS movies or something. But I think in terms of a film where there's a possession, it was unique. I think the performance of the girl who plays Lily was good as well. And like believable. Like I was just
Yeah.
really watching like where she was looking at all times and certain things she said, which felt like, oh, or like when she was just looking directly down the camera.
Yes.
Again, things that could potentially come across as hokey, but for me, it just felt like it worked.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I love the sort of silliness of the sort of what was that guy called with the one name? The guy who was
Oh yeah.
like a medium. He had
Yeah.
one. I love that he had one name. Like I was laughing at that. I was like, this is so silly. Um, yeah, I love the cynical character guy as well, and I think that was a great scene where he kind of like broke down the sort of suggestibility of the audience.
Yeah. And
I
he
find that
hypnotized
really
everyone.
yeah, I find that really interesting. And that kind of made me go, oh, I can't wait for him to get his comeuppance, and he didn't
No.
really get much of a
He was
comeuppance.
just loving
Um,
gas everyone basically.
yeah, yeah, he was loving it. He was loving gaslighting everyone. I don't know. I felt like it just really dialed into something that I enjoyed, and I don't think it's like a perfect film by any stretch of the imagination, but Christou, that's his name, Christou,
That's it.
ladies and gentlemen, Christou. There was a bit, and again, we are spoiling things and jumping ahead before we talk about the film, of course. But there was a bit where we see like a spooky apparition of a dead wife. Looked a little bit like the aliens in Cocoon. She did for a second, if you remember. She was like glowing and floaty. I was like, hang on a minute, what's going on there?
But
Like,
she
I
had
think
a big gown on. I was like, Galadriel? Wait, what? But yeah,
if anything felt hokey,
I
it
like
was kind of that where I
that.
was like, I get it. But other than that, I found it, especially like the voice as well, the like demonic voice. I thought that was
Mm.
pretty well done.
Yeah.
Um, again, this might be one. Usually, when I watch a film and I talk about it at great length, I usually end up liking it more. This could be the opposite. Um,
Maybe I'll like it more. That's the thing, you
yeah,
know. The more I thought
maybe,
about it, the
maybe.
more I was like, I just wish it did this or
Yeah,
this. You know, it was one of those.
I understand that. It is frustrating when that happens when you kind of like expect something to happen a certain way. But then again, I also find it frustrating when watch a trailer for a film and you like go, I feel like I know exactly how it's going to play out, and then it does. When it
Yeah.
plays out exactly the way it does, you're like, I feel like everything was in the trailer. Um, so yeah, obviously, so I think this is being shown on Shudder on the 19th of April. So any listeners who've missed it in cinemas, I think I saw I think is that why I missed the AI stuff. was because it was like a preview screening. I think I saw it on the 19th of March, and I think it came out on the 22nd of March in UK and American cinemas. So I think that's why the AI discourse passed me by, I guess, which was kind of nice, really. I wouldn't have wanted to go in looking for it, you know.
Sure.
Um, so yeah,
Yeah,
as you
I'm glad I
mentioned,
didn't.
what was that?
I'm glad I didn't know before I went in, to
Mm.
be honest.
Yeah. Um, okay, so in terms of how it starts, the film's there's like a prologue at the start, which is framed as like a documentary, but obviously like a mockumentary, investigating. It basically just talks about Jack Delroy and his rise to fame, presenting this show called Night Owls in the UK, which is like a late night talk show. It competes with ratings with the Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. Um, do you enjoy watching any any shows like this? I mean, you don't James Corden, the Late Late Show. God, oh God,
Couldn't think of anything worse than watching a James
oh
Corden
man,
show. But
absolutely horrific. I kind of like. I think I had a bit of a time in my life where I watched like Jimmy Kimmel occasionally, and I think it was because I used to like just watching the bands like that he had on at the end, or
yeah,
like there was
same.
certain artists where I was like, oh, I don't mind watching the show if I can see a bit of that. Obviously, we didn't really get to see it much in the UK. UK talk shows are kind of, I don't know, very they feel very different, don't they?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's very much a kind of like the Parkinson thing where you used to get all the guests would stick around, a bit like this, but they were there for something specific and they only had a couple of minutes and they'd sort of do a couple of gags and talk
Yeah.
about their book launch or something like that, and then that would
Yeah.
be it. Whereas I feel like in the American shows sometimes they get a little bit more breathing space and they go off on strange
Yeah.
tangents, and they
Yeah.
always have a sort of decent range of guests. And the couple of times when I've been in America and watched TV, and when I've watched
Mm.
things like like Jimmy Kimmel and things like that, it is um yeah, it's a kind of American TV show that they've perfected. It's like
Yeah.
the whole sort of genre is something that, because we've seen it so many times in films and TV from that perspective, from an American perspective, you know what you're
Yeah.
getting, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And UK chat shows are weird, and the reason I find them so weird is like the combination of guests you get. It'll be like, here's the Graham Norton show, and tonight we've got Tom Hanks and also Mickey Flanagan. Just like just two people like you would never ever imagine sat next to each other.
Yeah.
Just and I'm like, this is weird. This is just odd. And then the
Yeah.
little interactions they have, I find quite interesting.
It's like, yeah, Henry Cavill, Miriam Margolyes, and Sophie Ellis Bextor.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah. And
what?
Miriam Margolyes has no idea who Henry Cavill is. Just like, oh, are you an actor? Are you, sir? Yes. What kind of films have you been in? She's like, "Oh, quite a few actually, yeah, but
Yeah,
no,
I'm doing all right.
I'm doing all right for myself. I did see the art you shared of Henry Cavill as Magneto as well.
Which
I
was
mean,
AI.
which was what? I don't know, it was. Is it just going for long sort of grey hair or white hair, and any character with that, they're gone. He's perfect for it.
Yeah, yeah.
He's
Well,
absolutely perfect.
yeah, get the Witcher guy in. He's great with the long hair. He loves
Hey,
it.
Witcher guy.
Yeah.
What's going on with his hair in that film, Argyle?
Oh, God, yeah.
It sounded incredibly Bristolian then when I said that. Argyle.
Argyle.
What's going on with bloody Argyle then? Tell me about that. It's like a flat top going on, isn't it? He looks like
It's, yeah, yeah. Like
he
Guile.
looks
Argyle.
exactly like Guile.
Argyle.
Yeah, that's a good spin-off, isn't it? Argyle. That's how Giles' Bristolian family refer to him when he's coming round. Who's coming around this afternoon then? Argyle is coming around. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. How's he doing? He's all right. He's quality at them sonic booms. He's well quality at 'em. uh, so yeah, I guess they kind of established the fact that this show is like a bit of a underdog against like the Johnny Carson show. They talk about a lot of the ratings wars and stuff, and the fact that some people think of this show as like a little bit more of a risky one, and he's taken some interesting steps to try and make it more talked about. And then obviously everything that happened with his wife, um, getting lung cancer, even though she wasn't a smoker. And then like the mysterious connections he has to this place called the Grove, which seems to be like an elite camp, camp, an elite sort of like group in the woods for rich and powerful men. Some kind of weird, possible, uh, cult stuff happening. Possibly, you know, it's kind of like it's just like dropped there as a little tidbit of information for us to come back to later, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, I feel like it was almost like a sort of blink and you miss it sort of reference to like the occult and stuff, but it almost seemed like he was just going into some like rich men's club because he wanted to be famous. But
Yeah,
obviously that it was the whole price of fame and the, was this
yeah,
connected to his wife kind of thing and
yeah.
all that.
Like
Yeah.
it could have easily been a thing that wasn't touched on again, but obviously it does become quite an important factor of this. And it's good, because I think without this, we've got loads of footage of him on different shows, like mock-ups of like magazines with him on the cover of. Like it does really establish him as like this sort of personality, and it feels like believable enough as well. He's got a house band going on. He's got kind of like a, what do you say, like a sidekick,
It is
sidekick,
psychic. There's no
sidekick
other
Simon,
term for it.
who is Gus McConnell. Yeah, Jack's sidekick, Gus McConnell. Um, plays the theremin. That's nice. That bit, isn't it? Is that what it's called? Yeah, theremin.
Love that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So good.
Very spooky. Very spooky instrument. I think yeah, everything's a step. The set is good. It's got these kind of like big sort of like colorful stripes. It almost looks like a VHS cover or something, doesn't it? Um,
Big slidey door.
big slidey door. I think yeah, in terms of like the sets and all the aesthetics and everything, that it all feels pretty spot on. Um, the monologue he kind of does at the opening of the show as well. Feels very current to obviously whatever's happening in the 70s at the time. We get a little look at some of the little skits they've done in the past. That's one thing that kind of gets me when you watch SNL and you can kind of see them reading off the auto cue during the skit.
Right.
That always just like, oh no, what about the, oh dear. Yeah, that's pretty nuts. But it feels like the show is in its sixth season, so obviously it's been going a while, but it's never managed to establish itself as a like heavy hitter. Essentially, it's still playing second fiddle to the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and because of that, I think Jack Delroy's been taking more and more risks in terms of like the kind of guests he gets on, into in order to garner some controversy, and this is just the next step in that, trying to get something happen that everyone's going to be talking about. And the like producer guy as well, who seems, I can't remember what his name was, but he obviously appears in those sequences between parts of the show.
Hmm.
He seems to have quite a lot of weight in terms of what decisions are made, creative decisions, and he's kind of pushing this show as well to make as many waves as possible, I guess, on the.
Yeah, it wants it to be controversial so that it boosts the ratings, kind of thing, isn't it? He was sort of
Mm,
pushing him to make the decisions that were like going to basically kind of, I don't know, it was like shock value, wasn't it? Like make it sort of the show a little bit more shocking.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And we see a few clips of that, don't we? We see someone like swearing. Oh, swearing on the someone swearing. I think someone's like, does someone like throw a drink over someone else? A few things kind of happen like that, um, where we're supposed to believe. And we've all seen stuff like that. Do you remember Grace Jones on the what show was
Yes,
that? Grace Jones just
that's
like
like
slap.
yeah, when she
Yeah, I
was
can't.
out of it because he turned round and like he turned his back on her and stuff. I mean, I love
Yeah,
Grace anyway, but she's fantastic. But like, yeah,
yeah.
that's great. I mean, that's one of the sort of moments of TV where everyone was talking about it at the time, I think, and it's
And
sort
it
of
makes people tune in like to next week, doesn't it? Because you think, oh,
yeah.
something else is going to happen, and because it's live, I want to see it happening and be like the first person to experience it or whatever like that. Um, yeah, so it kind of reminded me of that in a way. We're obviously trying to be a bit more, take a few more risks, and obviously this is the latest step of that. Is it's like an occultism themed episode, although it is still very lighthearted, isn't it? It's not like, it doesn't take a real dark serious turn. It's just the level of the types of guests that they've got. So
Hmm.
as we mentioned, they've got Chris Stew, who's a psychic, and he's going to be doing some, he's going to be having some conversations with the audience, and trying to hone his, and then the other side, and we tend to get this on shows like this as well. So there's like a skeptic as well. So there's a former magician, Carmichael the Conjurer, who's basically been employed as as a skeptic essentially. Yeah, and I guess that's to try and give it a little bit more believability, where we've got a few people, and then the last person is the parapsychologist, author June Ross Mitchell. and her subject Lily Diabo. And they do also they do also introduce musician Cleo James. Never gets a chance, does she?
Didn't even get to play. It's a bit
They
rude.
go, should we get about next week? Actually, yeah, yeah, yeah,
It might have gone really well with her. She might have really
yeah.
fit in with what was going on, but she could have got possessed, but
Exactly, yeah.
get a chance
Uh,
to.
that could have been pretty good. So obviously with Jack, he kind of does. We get like an opening monologue, bit of banter with the audience, bit of banter with the band and his sidekick. I feel a bit sorry for his sidekick, don't you,
A little bit.
Gus? Yeah, he's kind of like that's the thing. When these things are happening, I think a lot of the crew and also the sidekick Gus are a bit unsure of like some of the steps the show has been taking, I guess,
Sure.
to kind of like try and get these ratings, which is understandable, you know. I think it's like they obviously, I mean, not a lot of these shows have got like amazing journalistic integrity, but at the same time, you know, they're probably just oh god, Chris Stew on. We got the Carmichael the Conjurer and Possessed Girl,
Yeah.
classic. But yeah, they're really leaning into the sort of Halloween stuff, aren't they? Obviously, there's a few things that come up where it's like Hal Owlween because it's
Yeah.
called Night Owls. I mean, that's pretty good. Not bad for a pun. um, yeah, and it's kind of like so. What happened? The first segment is the Christu segment, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I should just also discuss how this is framed as well. We didn't mention that. So the film is framed as being the salvage footage from the aired episode before people had the ability to record TV shows or TiVo. That was a thing. When people had that, before that, obviously, I guess you wouldn't be able to see it again unless you got like the master tape. So this is like the discovered master tapes of this being shown, but
So
also there are these like behind the scenes segments as well, which yeah, they do take you out of it a bit because it doesn't make sense because if they were behind the scenes segments that seem to being filmed where people are like, oh, get that camera out of my face, or you know, we're trying to have a private
that's
conversation here.
that's what it was missing. It was the fact that as soon as they went behind the scenes, it was almost like a three camera setup of like behind the shoulder, and it was the normal sort of two shot for people talking.
Yeah,
And that kind of took me out of it. And for me, like when I was thinking about it, I was like, do you know what? This would have worked slightly better for me as a sort of found footage thing if the mics were still on and
yes,
there was maybe like still images being shown of so you
yeah,
could still
okay,
hear the
okay,
audio of people talking and you'd say like this is the audio between Jack and the producer guy and then you'd see a
yeah,
couple of still images of them because it's behind the scenes so you only had the audio.
yeah,
The fact they went into like a black and white section of them
yeah,
sort of arguing and then it would follow Jack over to another thing and I'm like, well, what are we doing here? This doesn't make any
yeah.
sense. Like the studio cameras aren't on, who's filming this? So and that instantly made me go, well, it's not fan footage now, is it? It's like you've got your
I
laptop.
didn't really think of it like that, but I think that the suggestion you just made is probably the best one. Like if we just had a still image and it was, you know, a little disclaimer saying audio captured from live mics of that. I feel like you would have got enough. And if it was characters that weren't on screen, like the producer guy, you could have easily just had like some sort of image of him.
Yeah.
And I guess that would have lent itself to it a bit more as well. Yeah, yeah, I get it. I think that's a good suggestion. Um, so yeah, obviously it's framed like that, and then after we've had like the monologue and stuff, the first guest is Chris Stew, who comes out to do some psychic stuff. And what was it first of all he kind of like, oh yeah, there's that guy kind of like gets it wrong, and then the guy, oh,
The guy just
absolutely,
rinses him every time he's
the guy's just rinsing on him.
question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't
And
remember exactly
he's
what he says, but
he was
the
asking for
worst.
yeah to something begin with R and then he went on to like yeah then another name and then another name and then he went like three generations down the line
Yeah,
to get
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
someone's
right.
surname.
That sounds perfect. That's exactly what it is. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm on about. Um, but yeah, he does manage to, and we get a little bit of an understanding of how this works because after this section, they're sort of like talking to the audience and they realize that Chris Stew's like partner who's there was like asking them loads of personal questions before, and obviously
Yeah,
she went and told them. She went, that person in the front row.
yeah, because there was
They've
the girl and the mother who had lost their their brother, hadn't they, or something? She'd lost her son. He'd lost,
Yeah.
and it was, yeah, it was basically like going into more detail, and that was what he was meant to be picking up, and
Yeah.
he that he's at peace and he's speaking to me now and all this stuff, which is the stuff that you hear on normal like psychic
Mm.
investigations.
Yeah,
That kind
yeah, definitely. And all the while he's trying to do it, Carmichael the Conjurer is actually not initially, because I don't think they bring him out yet, but afterwards he's kind of being very Carmichael the Cynical, they should call
yeah,
him, because he's got an answer for everything, this guy,
every
doesn't he?
yeah,
And how like sassy was it when Christu like threw the water in his face? So
yeah.
unexpected. I was like, Christu,
Armor. Yeah,
please.
that was quite good because I mean, yeah, Carmichael was, I mean, just gaslighting everyone anyway all the time throughout the whole thing, but also the fact that he had an explanation for everything was quite good, and that he was not just kind of coming on and being like, "I don't believe this." He was telling you why and how was quite a fun thing.
Yeah, because I guess we're supposed to believe that he at one point was kind of doing all these tricks in his um shows when he was a magician or whatever else he used to do, where he used to hypnotize people as well. So he kind of knew all the tells for like these things. So in a way, the perfect person to get on, but also to rile up your other guests in the wrong way, I guess. So yeah, Christu does kind of do this cold reading, I guess, which he gets exposed for, but then he seems to have like a real premonition where what kind of happens? There's just like obviously like almost like I would
It
say an
was someone
earthquake. I
coming
don't think it's
through.
as bad as that.
Yeah, there was like the sort of studio started shaking, and there was lots of like electricity going around, and then it was like a reading that came through for Jack, wasn't it? Or that he found out was
Yeah.
for him later, or that he,
He did, yeah, I don't think he realized initially because he said it was Minnie, wasn't it? Minnie.
yeah,
And then later on, Jack obviously does mention to his producer that he thinks it's for him because Minnie was like the secret name that he used to refer to his wife as.
yeah.
But yeah, Christu's having a bad time in general. You know, he's having a really intense, terrifying like premonition. Getting a nosebleed. Just his eyes kind of like roll
Rolled
back,
back. Yeah, yeah, and he
roll into the back of
he
his head.
throws up all that black stuff as well, and he, yeah,
Yeah, that
across
was
his
pretty
head.
nuts, wasn't it? That was
Yeah.
like the fact that that happened, and they just went, mop it up, and then we'll go to commercial, and we'll come back
Yeah.
in a minute." Uh, yeah. So obviously that happens during the segment where Christu is kind of like trying to explain these things, but he's obviously not well. He's kind of like clearly sweating, and I think he's like coughing like a few times as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, when that happens, throwing up all the black gunk, they go to commercial break. And of course, then I think paramedics, or I think he just gets whisked off, and I think we're supposed to think he gets taken in an ambulance. But then we find out in one of the behind the scenes segments that he dies.
He dies on the way there. He ups and
Dies on
dies.
the way that Jesus. And again, like all of these things would potentially halt the production of the show, but of course there would be no film without that. Um, yeah, but obviously Jack is also trying to keep it quiet that he died. Obviously he's shocked, as you would be, but he's like, keep it quiet because everyone's going to kick off about Christu being dead. Yeah, and I think when Jack, the next segment is after Carmichael's been vommed all over, but then he starts to back up Christu essentially, saying that Minnie was the nickname he gave to Madeline, his late wife. Um, Yeah, the projectile vomit. Do you think that was a step too far? Maybe. Do you think that was maybe a little bit too much? The projectile vomiting, was that too extreme a
I
move for this aesthetic
You
to
know, I
take?
think for the pacing at that point, I think it kind of needed it because it was.
Yeah.
I remember at that point, towards the end of that segment, it was kind of losing me a little bit. I felt like there was nothing that was making me sort of um shocked in what was happening. He was just like coughing a little bit, and he'd said a couple of things,
Mm.
and it's like I'm waiting for something to like disprove like
Yeah.
um the conjurer guy kind of thing, and then when he projectile vomited, then it was like, oh yeah, here we go, this is great.
Yeah. But to
um
be fair, everything that happened, Carmichael was doubling down, like wouldn't be disproved. Would never once went, actually, you know what? I'm fully invested in it. I fully believe now.
yeah,
There was even like a thing where he was saying he would give, was it £100,000 or hundred
Yeah,
thousand
yeah,
dollars
100
to
grand.
if he could be proved to by someone that something supernatural was evident, he would write a check for $100,000.
Which is real. I didn't know this until the other day that there's an actual. So he is based on a real person who
Right.
actually
Okay.
did this. So they had a either like an organization or a school where they were like disproving certain parts of the paranormal, and they said, I think it was in the 70s where they said that if you could prove it, I think it was like either £50,000 or so, $50,000, whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, he was based on a real person, and even the look of him as well was based on that person.
Oh wow.
It
Okay.
was
Interesting.
pretty mad. But yeah, when he'd obviously been projectile vomited on, and the first thing he said was, "I've got another jacket out back. Can you go and?"
Yeah. Yeah. Go
And then he just carried on.
Go
It
and
was
get
fine.
my smoking jacket from the
Yeah.
car, please. I got another one ready to go. I'm assuming that the real person never gave up the money to somebody.
So it was,
That's the
yeah,
best way
they
to know
they
about it.
never had anyone prove like factually that anything had happened. So that no one could actually prove that there was anything paranormal going on.
Plus, if you put that much money on the line, you'd find some sort of hole in any story,
Well,
wouldn't you?
that's
Be
it.
like, "What's that? We just witnessed someone levitate on a chair." Well, it looked great, but unfortunately, this is what really happened.
Yeah, and they didn't
Um,
have Derek Acora back then, did they? Let's face it. So, you know.
Derek Acor what was the name of the person who used to help him all the time? Derek
Oh,
Acora's like spirit guide or something.
Yvette Fielding from
Oh
Yvette
yeah,
Fielding.
no, Yvette Fielding, but he kind of had a name. There was always a name of someone who like helped him sort of like reach the other side,
Oh,
like a spirit that he spoke to all the time. I have to find this because this is great. Derek Acora, spirit guide. It's not going to search. Let's find him. Derek Acora. Oh, he claimed to receive a psychic message from a spirit. Well, it just says a spirit guide. I thought the spirit guide had a name. Oh,
oh,
Sam.
oh,
Sam.
Sam.
Sam was an oracle of psychic powers who traveled from, it says here, village to village. I mean, I don't know. But the village was attacked by marauding invaders. Assuming this is the story of how Sam came to die. And then Sam was in, I guess, purgatory for ages until Scouse spirit guide Derek Acora turned up. What
Until
did
Derek
anything
Acora picks up the phone.
did, did anything ever happen on Most Haunted that was like, oh, actually, that might be legit? Or was it all kind of the
Only
same
two girls
same
allowed.
shite?
Like,
Girls Allowed. Oh, they did like a celebrity version. What happened to him?
there was just loads of like weird banging and stuff that they couldn't figure out what happened. I just that's the only ones that I remember for some reason. But
Just
the amount of
crazy.
times that I've watched stuff like that just purely because it's funny, and like Grave Encounters is one of my favorite found footage movies because it's
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know.
That is that is a film we need to do on this show as well.
I love Grave Encounters. I love both
Yeah.
of them. Great.
Oh, there's another one. There's a
There's
sequel.
two. Yeah, there's two. Maybe,
Oh, there's
maybe
two.
I'll come back and we'll do both.
It was a great. Sounds amazing. It was a great setup for a found footage film, wasn't it? It
Yeah.
it made a lot of sense, and it also felt like something I couldn't believe that it hadn't been done before. I mean, it might have been done before in some sense, or maybe like an anthology movie or
Hmm.
something.
It was
Um,
perfectly made. It was in terms of like the way that you at the beginning you think, oh god, this is really campy and it's really silly, and then the scares ramped up quite quickly, and all of a sudden you were like, oh, okay, they're really in it now. They can't actually get out. So yeah, it was good.
oh yeah, I'll have to rewatch that because I've definitely seen it, but not for quite a few years. Did you ever see a sketch show called Cardinal Burns that was on like E4 and Channel 4, like probably 10 years ago now?
No, no.
There was a great like setup that they used to do, like a recurring characters, like these two ghost hunters who were like so aloof about everything. It was so funny. Like they were just so aloof. Like they'd see something horrific and they'd be like, "Oh bloody hell, that's horrible!" Like just and just be like so aloof. I mean, there's one where like a horrible ghost like was approaching him, and as he turned around, he went, "All right," like that. It was just and like writing on the wall like in blood, and they were like, "Bloody hell, that's not a very nice message, is it?" I am not making it as
A
good as it is.
deadpan, is
Like as
it?
deadpan as it is, it was so good. They were just so like nothing phased them
I'm
because
gonna
they were
check that
just
out.
so aloof. I don't know where it was on Netflix for a while, but
Okay.
I think it might have gone. But yeah, Cardinal Burns is definitely worth. checking out. What other ghost hunting stuff was there? There's a couple of like American ones currently, isn't there? That I think like as a
Yeah, it's the one that like Zach Baggins is the one that is a really famous one in America that everyone absolutely hates. And he did a movie.
God.
I think it was called Demon House. I want to say it was in one of my first
Yeah.
fan footage lists. And the movie itself was quite fun, and he is quite annoying. But I didn't realize how much people hated him until I put the recommendation out there, and I didn't know who he
Yeah.
was. Loads of people were commenting, going, "Don't give this guy any recommendation. What the hell? You don't bring him into it. We don't talk
We
about it."
hate this guy.
Yeah,
Oh
like
no.
he's not got any fans whatsoever. But yeah, that's the
Damn.
only one I can think of, to be honest with you.
Have you seen like the Hell House movies? Any of those? Hell House LLC?
Yes. So that yeah. So
Yeah.
again, that was in the same video. The Hell House
Okay, amazing.
LLC one, the first one is incredible. They are a bit ropey after that, and I haven't seen the latest one, but the first Hell
Yeah,
House
there's like an
LLC,
orange origins one, isn't there?
yeah,
We've
it's
covered
awesome.
we've covered we've covered the original on the show,
It's,
but I've never seen any of the others, so maybe I need
they
to.
they vary in quality, but the first one is terrifying, like really good.
Hmm.
Loved
Yeah,
it.
I'll check some of them out. I do want to see Origin. I've heard quite good things about the Origins one, the one that came out like last year.
Okay.
Uh, okay, so what happened? So after that segment, then we get like a whole segment for Carmichael essentially talking about um this thing he's got where he give whoever the money if they can prove the existence of some level of supernatural occurrence. And I think it's fairly quick that we move on to June and Lily because I think there's a whole big segment where we see it's again like a little bit of a documentary segment where we see June how she came to be in the I want to say custody, but just not her like daughter or anything, is it? She's just
It's
like
like a
a patient
Guardian kind of thing, isn't it?
guardianship thing. Yeah, I
Yeah,
thought
he
that's right.
escaped from a the cult in
Satanic church that worshipped Abraxas, which
yes.
is that's a cleaning product, isn't it? But
I said that exactly the same thing. I was like, it doesn't sound as scary as I think it does.
again, like these bits were super campy, and I think like that's I don't know if that was the vibe it was going for, but it was the vibe that I kind of managed to latch on to. It wasn't like I was never taking anything too seriously. It kind of felt like it was a bit silly. And then so we kind of see the Satanic Church. And what were they doing? Because they kind of had kids that were like brought up in the church and
Yeah, so I think so this bit was obviously a reference to Anton LaVey, who was the leader of
yeah.
the Satan kind of thing, and it was definitely like trying to give that vibe of like these are the kind of things that they do, and there was lots of like the shots of the athame, and they were gonna stab people with it, and
Yeah, it was
you
all
know
quite
people in
cliche
robes.
satanic church stuff, but yeah,
Yeah, and she was there from that, and they had a shootout. Was it with the cops? And they,
yeah. Like lasted like 3 days or something, didn't it?
yeah,
Did
and
they
they
say that?
set the building alight themselves and set themselves on fire. And the only person that got free was Lily, the little girl who looks like Dawn
Yeah.
from Buffy. Um,
Oh yeah, she does.
he does a lot of
Yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah.
And yeah, and we're thinking that the reason why she survived is because she's possessed by Abraxas,
Yeah,
and he got her out by giving her a
yeah.
wet blanket or something. Um,
What's that? Is that similar to a wet willy? Oh, giving her a wet, giving her a wet blanket like
I
a.
don't think that'd help you escape a fire, but I mean, go off if that's
Hey, get off! That's mildly annoying. Anyway, I've escaped this fire now. Uh, so yeah, she kind of explains that she's connected to this demon. Like she's quite like I guess you want to say creepy, but she almost is acting are very aware of the situation and also very intuitive, I guess. Like she's looking down the camera, she's asking a lot of questions. Which camera do I look down? And well, the way she looks down the camera is almost like she's looking directly at the audience, trying
yeah,
to like, yeah. And she describes the demon as Mr. Wriggles. Why is he called Mr. Wriggles? Because he wriggles his way into my brain. Is that what she says?
yeah, and then he wriggles
So,
out again. I was like, well,
oh, and
like,
then he
he's
wriggles out
got to go
again.
sometime, hasn't he?
Uh,
Yeah,
but
but the bits where she was like looking down the camera were genuinely like the bits that where I was like, oh, something's going to happen because
Yeah.
she's definitely she knows what's going on kind of thing. There's
Yeah.
something behind it because there
Do
was
you
times
think
where
it?
she acted like she kind of knew what was going to happen and that she knew that this demon was inside her, and then there were other times when she just acted like the demon basically.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think it needed some more like things that kind of were exclusive for the audience, possibly? Like it felt like a lot of the happenings seemed to be taking place in the studio and everyone's reacting to it. If we had a few more like moments of stuff happening, little bits, I don't know, little
Yeah.
bits of sound design or something visual that only we could see that maybe when she was on the screen. Um, that was maybe just one thing I was thinking perhaps it was missing. Um, but yeah, June has like written a book about it as well. Is that right? She written a
Yeah.
book about the whole thing.
Yeah,
I want her to be left alone. That's why I've brought her on this TV show, and
yeah,
I've written a book
exactly.
about it. And I'm taking her on a nationwide tour of all, of all the hot spots to introduce you. Come and meet the demon possessed girl.
Yeah, I need to protect this girl at all costs, which is why I've written this best-selling novel, and know exactly where to find her at these tour dates where I'll sign the book and
Yeah.
she'll get possessed by Mr. Wriggles. Nice one.
And if you want, we'll do a possession for you. Why not? I'll pretend I'm not really into it. Uh, but yeah. Jack Delroy, so David Dastmalchian, takes a bit of a back seat, I feel like, in most of these sections. And I think maybe that just shows that, it's a good performance because he's good at kind of like blending in as the host, as like the understandable, giving the platform to his guests rather than himself. I think that's good. I think if he was more over the top, like I read in a few sort of reviews of this film, I've seen a few people saying like, "Oh, it's a very one note, very sort of subdued performance." But I'm like, I feel like that's what it needs. It doesn't need to
Yeah.
be. I think people are just basing that on the fact that the poster or like some of the stuff in the trailer is like him screaming and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's weird that some of the stuff in the trailer and yeah, and to some extent the poster where he's like his head is on fire and stuff. You were
Mhm.
expecting it to be more about him, and I
Yeah,
think it was about him in the sense of like his ambition,
yeah,
his character. I think because he'd just come out of obviously having his wife died and stuff and everything, it was meant to be that he was a little
yeah,
bit depressed and subdued kind of thing, which
mm.
came across, but also those TV shows aren't meant to be about the host. I mean, I'm sure James Corden makes it all about him, but like the but like the guests are meant to
He
be,
sure does.
it's their time to shine, isn't it? It's their point. So um yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with his performance. I mean, he's great in most things, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about this as well because do you remember the first time you saw David Dastmalchian and what it was in?
Yes, it was in it was in the Flash TV series.
Oh, right, okay. So this might.
He's a recurring character in that, and I watched I dipped in and out of it, and he was in there, and he was great. And then I saw him in the Suicide Squad, and was
Mm,
instantly obsessed. I was like, this guy is a
yeah,
genius. Yeah,
yeah, he's great. I remember seeing him for the first time in The Dark Knight as that guy, like pretty much like unnamed Joker thug, who like Harvey Dent kidnaps, and he's the one he's threatening for the first time. And that's when Batman turns and goes, "You'd leave a man's life up to chance," is when he's talking about. It's
I
him, yes. So
try.
I don't think he says barely anything, but I remember he's kind of like laughing, and I even remember in watching The Dark Knight, I remember thinking he'd make a good like Joker. I just kept thinking because even the way he was laughing was kind of like a little bit unnerving, but then he had like these flashes of like seriousness where he's almost like a bit scared, a bit angry.
I think
Um,
I need to revisit that then. Just
yeah,
the
it's just after the sequence where okay, so well, it says this is his first film role. Thomas Schiff is the name of the character. It happens just after the mayor gets like shot. Do you remember when you see Joker very briefly with no makeup on?
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then I can't remember what happens, but in the melee, like Harvey Dent manages to obviously pre Two Face Harvey Dent managed to like kidnap him, and he's like questioning him about something. And that scene always used to annoy me because I was like, he's clearly just trying to scare him. He's not actually gonna kill him if it comes back tails. And Batman catches it. He's like, "You leave a man's life up to chance." I'm like, let him explain what's going
Yeah.
on here. It felt like a real part of like Harvey Dent's uh villain origin.
Yeah.
Uh, this kind of all leads up to, obviously, things are happening behind the scenes. We hear about Christou dying en route to the hospital, and I think this kind of like bleeds out to a few more members of the cast. I think um, Gus mentions that some of the crew, sorry, not the cast, some of the crew have like gone. Basically, they're just like, this is too much. When
Yeah.
of course the conjuring of the demon starts to happen. There's a few moments where Lily like speaks directly to Jack, saying things about the place of the tall trees and sort of talking to him about his wife as
Yeah.
well, which kind of all feels pretty spooky. But of course, while this is all happening, Carmichael is continually sort of shutting it down, saying, well, she obviously knows all about it. It's been in public, it's been publicized, the death of your wife and how it's affected you.
Better paper.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, but I mean, how do they manage to convince June to basically conjure the demon? I think they do a little bit when they talk to it first, right?
I think she like I think Jack kind of forces her hand, and because she
Yeah,
backstage says no originally and says no, I'm not
that's
going to
right.
do this, but I don't mind talking about it, and I don't mind Lily being on the stage, but we're not going to do anything like that. And then he kind of calls her bluff on air and
Mm,
says we're gonna see a bit of this now, aren't we, kind of thing.
yeah,
And Lily, unbeknownst to everyone, actually wants to do it and wants to prove the other
yeah.
way wrong and stuff. I think she just wants the money, to be honest.
I mean,
But
you would, but I feel like even if I was possessed by a demon, 100 grand, lovely bit of
yeah,
lolly, just
yeah, exactly.
it'd be great. It'd make, being possessed by a demon kind of sucks, but loaded for a
Yeah,
while at
yeah,
least.
got
Um,
some money out of it.
so the possession, we've got like a classic, like tied to a chair situation where she got like these restraints essentially.
Yeah.
Um,
Only on her hands though, because I did think, why ain't she kicking everyone?
yeah.
Kick her in the
Again, that's
shin.
that's a good point. Oh, kicking the shins, that is one of the worst as well. So yeah, the possession. Obviously, we get a the voice is really quite good, it's quite unique. It's kind of like her voice and like a satanic voice in the mix as well. Usually, we get possessions just the changing of the voice, but the fact that we can still hear her voice as
Yeah,
well is pretty cool.
yeah, it was me.
Yeah, obviously the electricity is going like haywire, and then of course the final, again we see some flashes of this face as well, and she's kind of like, first of all she's talking to June, but then she's talking directly to Jack. Um, says some horrible stuff to him, doesn't she? She says like she's dead because of you and various things like that.
Yeah, because her face changes. She goes into sort of Reagan mode, doesn't she? And she looks
Oh yeah, of course,
very
yeah. So it's
exorcist,
like,
like all the scabs and cuts and things like that.
yeah, and again this is something where they're trying to say, how could this be faked? And to be fair, the fact that it gets kind of, the thing Carmichael does next is kind of, it makes sense, but at the same time, it's still a bit of a mad explanation for like how these things would work, like mass hallucination. That in itself, mass hallucination on like nationwide TV is mad enough
Yeah,
already, let alone some sort of possession happening. But yeah, I found it pretty spooky. It was like kind of a bit by the numbers in terms of the way these possessions kind of work, but
yeah,
I still find it pretty interesting. Like Lily kind of refers to having met Jack before, which I thought was pretty interesting again. But maybe there needed to be like a more out and out link to Jack in some way. The fact is kind of like hinted at, and because he doesn't ever really seem genuinely worried, does he? He's kind
no,
of a bit
no.
like, what's that? That's weird.
Yeah. There's,
He's
there's
never
definitely
like,
a moment where
oh
he's
my
like, "How do you know
God.
that?" Or he, or sort of
Yeah.
acknowledging that it
Uh,
was something that was affecting him. It just kind of seemed like a bit, oh yeah, well,
yeah.
I'll just play along,
Because
kind of.
I feel like it should have made more of the fact that he must have had a little bit of doubt in his head as to why his wife passed away the way she did.
Mm.
and made some sort of connection to this sort of history he had with this sort of cult. Because the fact that she, oh, she got cancer and she didn't even have, she didn't even, she got lung cancer, she didn't even smoke. I know you can get lung cancer through other ways.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? I kind of wanted more of him being like, have I just sacrificed my wife just for ratings? Almost like something that was eating away at him. The
Yeah.
physical manifestation of that doubt might have been interesting. Because again, yeah, in fact, I don't know if it's supposed to show that he's so wrapped up in this show that even those sort of things, because he does say later on, doesn't he? He's like, I had no idea that it was going to be had anything to do with the death of my wife. I knew I was making these sacrifices, but maybe didn't take him seriously.
Yeah, I also feel like some of the dialogue that came out of Lily when she was possessed could have leaned into the fact that Jack caused his wife's death instead of it kind of being like
Yeah.
secret nicknames and things that he would know, like the tall trees and stuff. If she out and out said like your
Yeah.
wife's coming through and your wife thinks that you killed her because now she
Yeah.
knows you
Your
were
wife
part of
blames you.
the Court of Owls,
Yeah,
then
yeah. Yeah.
she's I and also I mean as you say it like the possession itself is very by the numbers. It's very derivative of all the stuff that we've seen before, but it was done the way that it was done with the spotlights and everything, it did make it very
Mm,
atmospheric. For some reason it didn't really sort of resonate with me.
mm.
Just all the like head clicking and the levitation, which was a slightly dicey effect with the green screen.
Yeah,
um
yeah. But I
it
don't
was
know. I kind of feel like the diciness and the effects and stuff, and it's kind of lent itself to that like analog nature of the show in a
okay.
way. I don't know. I kind of felt I don't know. It did kind of work for me, and I think in the same way of things like the VHS movies, sometimes the effects seem to like And again, this might not have been done on purpose, but the effects in like 80 set sequences, 90 set sequences seem to replicate like effects that maybe you would have seen in those eras. So in a way, it like feels it shouldn't, but it feels more realistic in a way if they're slightly more hokey. If
I get that. I mean, I
if
guess
that
it
as
does.
a point makes any sense at all,
Yeah, no,
really.
it gives that like sort of authenticity of the time period, I guess. Because for me, like when like I've said, I love found footage movies. If they are a bit too polished, if it seems like they're using a HD camera, it
Yeah.
takes me out of it for some reason. So like you're like as above, so below, and things like that. Like anything that looks a little bit too yeah, too HD in a sense. Like
Yeah.
if it looks like it's filmed on a potato, then I'm gonna be there for it. I'm gonna be like invested. If,
Filmed on a potato. Yeah.
um but like for some reason with this one I think even though it did feel like it was in the 70s, there was certain things that made me
Mm.
like brought me out of it. And I think the possession, the bit where she was floating and the bit where I could, because I was like, why didn't they just do this on wires or like a gimbal or something like that? But the fact that it looked like it was on a
Yeah,
green screen
yeah,
um, made me go a bit like, you like that's
yeah.
another.
You guys.
Yeah, come on now. But yeah, it was cool though. I mean, the way that they changed her face and stuff, that's something that I was waiting for.
Mm.
Um, is it Carmichael, something like that? This,
Carmichael, yeah. It's just those little
yeah,
flashes, wasn't it? Like it wasn't even like loads of it really. It was just a very quick flash of this face, almost like you're blinking, you miss it, or you're like, God, did that really just happen? Like it is very, very effective, I found it.
yeah,
And again, we've seen stuff like this before, but I think when you see it like with super CGI and the big elongated face in a different way. We've seen that a million times. We don't need to see it again. These little flashes were reminiscent of things like The Exorcist, where you see that flash of the of Pazuzu's face just for a moment, and you're a bit like, oh, I'm not quite sure if was that me. Did I imagine that? What's going on?
yeah.
I think those are always um interesting and and effective. But yeah, in terms of it being by numbers, and yeah, it was derivative of other things like for me, there's always a fine line, isn't there, between something being derivative and something just like paying homage to.
Hmm.
Sometimes it can be done wrong, but maybe because I was invested, like it wasn't like it could do no wrong, but I felt like the way it sort of presented things kind of just seemed to work for me. Um, but yeah, essentially after that possession is when Carmichael says, I know exactly what happened, and I'm gonna show you how it was done. It wasn't wires and it wasn't makeup effects and it wasn't this and that. It was a mass hypnotism that happened for the audience at home and the audience here in the studio. And I'm going to show you how I did it. And he basically gets Gus, Jack's sidekick, up on stage, and does a demonstration where he makes Gus like think he's got worms coming out of him, and he's like tearing himself apart like poltergeist style when he's ripping his face off.
That was quite cool. I mean, the way that they were like coming out of his neck first of all, and he was like pulling
Yeah,
a couple out because he's scared of worms, isn't he? I can't remember what the actual term was.
yeah. They say a name, don't they? Yeah,
It was the way that his watch changed that I was impressed with because it went from like he was sort of dangling the watch and all of a sudden it changed to this spiral and I was like, well, how did he do that? That's what I.
yeah,
but
yeah,
but yeah, he essentially hypnotized not only yeah the sidekick but the audience as well live on TV apparently. But it didn't work on
yeah,
everyone.
yeah. Which is like mad. It didn't work on everyone. Yeah, so only a few people said, "Yeah, I saw that. I saw that particular moment." Um, and they watched back the footage essentially to prove that actually that didn't happen. This is what actually happened. Yeah, and it was very slightly different to what we saw, like the wording of
Yeah, he
things he
was
said.
suggesting things that you were seeing. So he was saying that you know, oh, check your neck. There's a spot on your neck that, and then
Yeah,
he was, saying, oh yeah, you feel hot. You need to take off your jacket. And then he would say, oh,
yeah,
I'm really hot. I need to take off my jacket. And it was that suggestion that we missed the first time because we were
mm,
meant to be hypnotized, which I thought was really clever. That worked really well.
yeah,
And it
yeah,
kind of
definitely.
frustrated me. I was like, no, you got me. That's,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. You got me, film. I was feel worried when I'm watching hypnotism stuff because I think even though it's in a film and this is fictional hypnotism, you may think hypnotism is fictional anyway. I'm always like worried. I'm always like, am I going to get hypnotized just by
Yeah.
watching this?
Am
I
I going
kind
to
of do
roll
a couple. I do a couple of blinks just to like to take myself out of it. The spiral. Oh no, no, don't let it happen. Um, yeah, but that's interesting because I think it adds another dynamic to all of this, where like, you're thinking while you're watching this film, there's absolutely no. She's obviously possessed by a demon. This is being presented as this, and I can't wait to see what happens and when the real demon comes out. But then, even this sequence adds that seed of doubt to you, where you're like, oh wait, so does that mean that is there a demon at all? Which I think is interesting because I think it's just an interesting take to that. And if you're an idiot like me, you might be going, "Oh no, have I been hypnotized during that whole film?" And just come out. That film was good, wasn't it? Unfortunately, Ben, you've been hypnotized. It was
You haven't
shit.
watched a thing.
You haven't watched what film? What are we on
Yeah.
about? We ain't got in yet. Oh god,
But 2 episodes of Roseanne on. That's all you've watched. Um,
that's a sweet spot. 2 episodes. Uh, So yeah, this obviously June is like, no, that's not what happened. Don't worry about it. Um, and then the supernatural. Oh yeah, but that's of course. But then they essentially debunk that again. So not only does he debunk it, but then they go back to the footage and of the Conjuring, and that actually happened. To which
yeah.
Carmichael is still like, oh well, there's obviously been some sort of interesting video editing that's
Yeah.
happened
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
last 30 minutes or so. He's still like, no. But during the recorded playback, we see the moment where there is a ghost of Madeline standing behind him in the footage. And I really like this film. I'm a big fan. But I feel like this is a bit of a missed opportunity to have a really genuinely scary moment.
Yeah.
I feel like the sort of floating apparition of Madeline, where someone's gone, what does someone look like when they're dying of terminal cancer? I think they look little bit like this. It is a little bit
They look like Galadriel.
insensitive, a little bit insensitive, isn't it? It's almost
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
wow. I'm sure some people do look that bad, but it almost looks like kind of crazy how I can almost see the bowl cap. I feel like
Mm.
I just, do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the head felt very like squishy, and I was like, I can almost see the line in the bowl cap.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like this could have been genuinely scary and like shocking, in some way, or maybe like Jack could have been super super affected by this, but like, oh Jesus Christ, is that really it? But yeah, they look like the aliens from Cocoon. She looked like the aliens from Cocoon slash
Totally
Galadriel.
did.
Oh, I was pretty scared of them, the Cocoon aliens when I was a kid.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
But
I
then,
remember whenever they were on TV, I used to watch them, but I watched them under duress. I'd be like, no, I really like them, but also I need to look away for a minute.
because
Um,
they were nice, if they were evil, those aliens,
yeah,
it would have been terrifying. Because they
just
were
nice
nice, you'd be
old
like,
people, weren't they? But they were all glowy and floaty and shit. Yeah.
yeah. Um. So after that is kind of when the things kind of like unravel, essentially, isn't it? Obviously, um, Carmichael gets really angry. He like accuses Jack of orchestrating all the events as an elaborate hoax. Not that like this show, you would again, I talk about journalistic integrity. This show kind of feels a bit like that anyway, like light entertainment. And especially at Halloween, I feel like at Halloween all bets are off. Like when you watch Halloween specials and stuff like this, there's loads of mad. You'd be 100% expecting to see a fake like demonic possession in something like this. Maybe not in the 70s, but like I don't know, in the 90s or something.
There'd be some kind
Um,
of hijinks, but
yeah, some kind of hijinks. And then this is when Lily essentially, how does she become possessed? Because what I kept thinking was going to happen was because she'd had the restraints taken off. I thought that when they play back the footage, the the noise, the sound of June again doing the incantation was gonna allow the demon to come out. But that still happened, but that wasn't why, wasn't it?
yeah, exactly. Um and because she like was using that talisman as well to sort of try and keep her in the like the
Oh
certain
yeah, of
place.
course.
Yeah, I was expecting that to trigger her. I was expecting it to be like when they played it again, and
Mm,
also for for them to play the footage again, I was expecting that to be the thing that influences the audience, that sets
yeah,
the demon into the world kind of thing.
yeah.
But they never
That's
really
tw
played
No, that's twice. That's twice now that I've been blue balled by like a scene like that. So again, I'm not spoiling anything. I don't think this is spoiling anything. But in Ghostbusters, there's a moment where they're talking about this incantation and someone's recording it, and
that.
I kept thinking, oh, they're recording it. That's going to come back later when someone plays it to listen back to it, and it's going to release something. And it
Right.
never did. It never did. And the same thing happened with this. I was just like, oh, come on. Like
Yeah.
it is frustrating now because I guess it's, when you see enough films, yes, you are on the lookout for all of these little tells and these things that we're supposed to remember because they're going to affect things later. But it is kind of frustrating when something seemingly does that really obviously,
Yeah.
and then it doesn't play out because then you're almost like, I understand the need for red herrings, but at the same time that doesn't feel like a red herring. That feels like a bad writing choice.
I think it was a moment where I was sat there going, "Oh, here we go. Here, this is it. This is the bit that's actually like going to scare me. This is going to ramp up." And when it didn't happen, I think that was the point where I was like,
Mm.
"Okay, so we're done here now. Then this isn't. There's nothing. It's like there's nothing that's going to happen that's kind of going to kind of ramp up because you've had so many opportunities to do it.
Mm.
And it's like you say, it's good to sometimes like subvert expectations, but that was the moment that was the most obvious point where
Yeah,
things could have escalated really.
yeah. It, yeah, because I mean, in terms of the escalation, obviously we do get um, the big scary possession moment where Lily is possessed. She kind of like her head splits in this weird kind of like analog VHS creepy electricity, like when her kind of like arms are flying about so much. Like again, I thought it's quite unique in terms of what we're seeing. I enjoyed that a lot more than I enjoyed the following bits, which were like Jack in this weird sort of like Twin Peaks world nightmare version of the show, where he's like reliving moments of his past. There's like almost like bits from that documentary at the start. Suddenly he was like living them.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah.
was this potentially something that you thought didn't lend itself to the found footage?
Yeah, I mean, again, I feel like somewhere out there was a different ending that didn't go as sort of cerebral and weird. And
Yeah.
maybe it did have like just a kind of you know, like the lights fade down in the studio, and then when they come back on, like everyone's dead and stuff like that, you know, that kind of thing. And I think
Yeah.
they maybe thought, oh shit, we forgot to include all the Court of Owls stuff. We need to go back to
Yeah.
that, and we need to show someone with a giant owl head on chanting, and we need to have everyone doing the gobble gobble noise and all that stuff. And it was, I think it kind of got, as it got weirder, it did sort of take me out of it, but it did make me think, like, I feel like you don't know where you're going with this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously we will mention how everyone was offed in the show as well. So June gets like hung by her necklace, crucifix,
Talisman, yeah.
talisman. That's it, talisman. Sorry, yeah.
There's always a
She gets
talisman.
like hung. Gus. How does Gus die? The sidekick. That's been a couple of months since I've seen
Oh,
that.
doesn't he gets his neck snapped and he falls through
That's right.
the
Falls through the glass
table? It
table.
was very like, yeah, it was the that was my probably my favorite kill as well, where he just
Mm,
sort of face plants almost kind of through
yeah.
the
And
glass.
Carmichael gets just burned alive, I guess. There's like the moment where he kind of, I think, realizes that this is legit. And he kind of gets just roasted by the, not roasted that way, but roasted. Uh,
Yeah, he just takes the piss until he's actually on fire.
takes the piss out of his different jackets. Yeah, I think the next snap moment was great. I would have liked it if that next snap moment again. I don't mean to unpick things as often as detailed as this. Imagine that next snap, but completely unexpected.
Mm.
Like no one's possessed, no one's doing anything. It's a quiet moment, and then suddenly, snap, and
Yeah.
then the
Yeah, because
demon
it was
comes
she
out.
pointed at him and snapped his neck, so
Yeah,
you knew that was going to happen because she had all the like
yeah.
lightning going on from on her other hand and stuff, and she was, you know,
Mm,
taking everyone out left, right, and center. But it was a cool kill. It was just like, for me, it would have been good if it was if something had happened to the cameraman. So if the camera got really shaky and zoomed in just as it happened, because
mm,
it was a wide shot and you saw his head snap and he fell. It would have been
yeah.
good if you'd seen it sort of a little bit like visceral, as if it was. You know, 1 minute you were seeing the back of his head, and then you were seeing his face, and you were like, "Oh God," that
Mm.
kind of thing. But you know, I mean, these are all decisions that I've thought about since the movie, so
Yeah, I think
it's
that's it. Like after the film, I was kind of pretty happy and like thinking it was great. But yeah, occasionally you can a little bit later think, oh, I kind of wish this happened. I wish that happened. I
yeah,
don't think it
yeah,
affected my overall enjoyment of the film though. So yeah, this kind of like final sequence is him like going through all these nightmarish versions. We see a lot more of the stuff in the tall trees and the grove, and that he was involved in this ceremony that seemed to have a connection to this demon that possessed Lily, but it also made out that Jack was sacrificing something in order to get more success in his working life. So obviously his chat show and stuff like that. But he was indirectly responsible for Madeline contracting cancer. But I feel like still a part of me feels like yeah he should have understood that there was that connection.
yeah.
Um, and also the show it doesn't make a lot of sense because the show is still struggling for ratings, right?
Yeah,
So
it doesn't help. So he gets like he doesn't get any more famous until she is dying, and that's
oh
what.
yeah, of course,
So the
that's
thing
the
that
connection. I
boosts the
got you.
ratings is her death. So that like the two are meant to be connected in the fact that he's got the ratings he wanted, but at the cost of his
Mm.
wife, like looking like Peter Quill's mum. Um,
Yeah,
so
yeah, exactly.
uh,
Oh dear.
yeah, which is, I mean, like it made sense. It made sense in the in that story, and towards the end when everything became a
Yeah,
dream kind of thing, that was fair. Like
yeah.
that kind of, you know, made more sense.
So there's a scene where obviously Madeline dying on like she's on her deathbed, and she confronts Jack and basically says like she says pretty much says like you did this, and but she's like urging him to like take this ritualistic dagger and stab it into her body to like essentially like end the pain, isn't it? But it turns out that this is all a vision because when he kind of like snaps out of it, turns out that the studio is empty, surrounded by all the dead bodies, but Jack has, with that ritualistic knife that he stabbed into Madeline, he's actually stabbed Lily to death. And again, I was kind of wondering what this meant. Does this mean that now the demon is gone into Jack somehow? Possibly. It doesn't really suggest that, though, does it?
Yeah, I mean, for some reason, I thought that whether this was something to do with the marketing or some, I don't know, but I thought that the way that they'd framed it was like that the demon was going to go into the TV and into the world kind of thing. It was going to
Okay.
the fact that it was live was the thing that the demon wanted.
Got you.
Um, and that's why when he killed Lily, it was already released and it was already out there in the world. But they didn't really go into that. I was expecting there to be
Yeah.
like a mockumentary ending, maybe because I'd watched Antrim recently, but
Oh
I was
yeah, yeah.
a
And
bookend.
then
Yeah,
everyone was
yeah.
possessed in the
And then
world.
everyone who got possessed, wacky stuff happened to them, and everyone like wasn't hypnotized, and it could have been a will they, won't they kind of thing, or like was it
Yeah,
hypnotism?
yeah, yeah. That makes
But
sense. Yeah.
yeah, when he killed Lily, I was like, oh, that was quite cool. Like that was
Yeah.
unexpected. Maybe she forced him to do that somehow. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Almost like killing the body that the demon was in,
Hmm.
like freed it in some way, or I
Yeah,
don't know.
it was a
I don't
great shot.
know.
Like the wide shot of like
Mm.
just the carnage everywhere kind of thing, and then empty studio. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. 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 Definitely. It sure was, and that is how it ends. That's how Late Night with the Devil ends. I've got a couple of. Oh, I wrote these quite quickly. Apologies, Stu. A couple of instances of the name game. If you remember
Okay,
this from last time, you
I
remember the rules, right? You
love it.
do?
Yeah, yeah.
So, I'll give you the synopsis, a brief synopsis, which is slightly different to that of Late Night with the Devil, but with a new titled film that sounds like Late Night with the Devil. So, a live television broadcast in 1977 goes horribly wrong, unleashing evil into the nation's living rooms. And some people go go to the cinema with this with this devil. Some of them go out for a lovely meal. Some of them just like to stay in front of Netflix and chill and have a nice cuddle.
Uh,
Yes.
I had no
Not
idea.
the silence. Um, it's
No idea.
date night with the devil.
Oh, okay.
I feel like
Yeah.
my description wasn't good enough. I'm sorry, Stu. I'll try harder with this. Um, Again, I apologize for these before. A live television broadcast in 1977 goes horribly wrong, unleashing evil into the nation's living rooms, but also the nation's bathrooms. So the next time you want to go and have a quiet moment uh, on the toilet, unfortunately, the devil's going to be there with you.
Oh my God. I don't know. This is
What could
going to
you
be
be do?
bad.
What could you be doing in the bathroom that rhymes with late night?
Late shite with the devil.
It's close. Take shite with the
Late
devil.
shite with the amazing.
Yeah. And again, I apologize for this. I can't stop apologizing for him.
No.
A live television broadcast in 1977 goes horribly wrong, unleashing the souls of two football playing brothers into the nation's living room called Gary and Phil.
Oh God, you've lost me now. Anything to do with football.
Oh no.
Done. That's it. Like
Okay, and I think Andy's the same when I pull out the old football references. It's late night with the Neville, Gary and
Oh,
Phil Neville.
okay. But yeah, fair. I get that.
I don't know if these ones are any good anymore. A live television broadcast in 1977 goes horribly wrong, unleashing evil into the nation's living rooms. But some people think it ain't really that big a deal. Some would
Right.
say it's a serious situation, and some people are just they're not taking it seriously. All right,
Oh, I'm
it's
drawing a
a,
blank. I'm rubbish at the guessing part.
I think I gotta be honest. It's probably the clues aren't as good as they could be. It
But
is it is make light with the devil. Ah, making light of it's fine. Demon, devil, it's absolutely no problem. Um,
I've got one
and
for you.
oh, good, good. Thank you so much for saving the day.
Okay, late night television broadcast goes horribly wrong when everyone burns their mouth on a hot beef drink.
A hot beef drink, which is late late night with the Bovril.
Yeah.
A hot beef drink. Anyone anyone is confused by that, you can get basically a watery gravy drink that you can sometimes you can drink at outdoor events, sometimes at the football. A hot Bovril. Have you ever partook in a Bovril?
I have. Do you know what? It was a big thing in our house to have Bovril on toast instead of Marmite. So instead of having making a drink out of it, spread it on your toast.
Ah, what is it? What is it? What format is it in before it becomes a drink?
So it's like a really thick,
Paste.
like it's that sort of tar substance kind of thing. It's not as thick as Marmite, but it's like it comes out as like a sort of yeah, black goo.
Jesus, I feel like I'm gonna have to get myself back involved with a Bovril,
Get
a
late night.
lovely hot beef drink. There are no other drinks like that, right? There's no other drinks like that. No one's gone. I know soups are like the same, but it's just weird. Imagine having a lovely chicken flavored sparkling water, for example. It's the same. So yeah, I do apologize greatly for my clues. They weren't the best, but I wrote them down quickly. That's my excuse. Okay, so now we need to rate the film. A to F, pluses and minuses are allowed. I'm gonna go first. Usually I let the guests go first. However, I feel like your rating might be a bit more interesting than mine. So I'm just gonna say, and you can retort against this if you like. I was gonna go for like an A minus. Now that may be like that might sound mad based on the conversation we've had, where I know I made a lot of suggestions of what I think could work better, but I just think for what I expected it, I mean, maybe seeing the trailer would have affected me more because as I said, I only saw a small clip. I didn't watch the trailer. I just read sort of like the reviews and it made me kind of want to go and see it. I just feel like in terms of what it was trying to achieve, I feel like it did it really well. And maybe the vibe it was going for resonated with me. And yeah, I just didn't take it all that seriously. As I've mentioned before, like possession type things always work for me, even in some of the worst films, even like, for example, The Exorcist Believer, where overall that film was naff. But
I haven't seen it.
I didn't absolutely hate the possession things. I didn't hate were like the effects,
Right.
and some of the script was a bit hokey and stuff like that. But with this, I kind of feel like it just captured something. And again, I'm not like super into Ghost Watch, so it didn't make me think, oh, I wish I was rather watching Ghost Watch. I was kind of like, in terms of the film and what it was going for, it was the central performances I think were all good and believable in terms of what part they played. Um, yeah, it really got me, and like the AI things are kind of a bit naff, but I don't think it will allow me to sort of think of the film in a negative light or anything like that. But of course, the reason I invited you on the show is because you said you didn't really like it. So now I'm interested to see where you're going and if A minus is madness from me.
I don't think it's madness. I think the thing that shocked me is the reaction that I've seen from people afterwards. Like some people, I mean, obviously everyone's like, hyperbolic on the, YouTube and say it's the scariest movie I've ever seen. I'm never going to sleep again. And for me, when I got home and I wanted to see all these people that were saying like, oh, it's got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes at one point, and it was like
Yeah.
loads of people were saying it's the horror movie of the year. And when I got home, I was like, oh. Oh,
Interesting.
and so for me, I was flitting between like a C or a C plus. I would say C plus. And it wasn't that I didn't like it. I enjoyed it for what it was, and it was very entertaining. It just didn't get me there. It just didn't get me to the point where I was like,
Yeah.
that's what I was looking for. And I think for me being a found footage fan, there was a lots of things that took me out of it. And maybe I didn't really get the vibe of it. Maybe I didn't get like that it was meant to be a little bit campy or it was meant to be a little bit naff in places and stuff. But it was, yeah, I think a lot of it just surprised me. I think I went in expecting one thing, and when I got another, it just made me think of all the missed opportunities. And
Yeah.
that didn't take away from my and like enjoyment of it in terms of being entertained, but I didn't sort of make me go, oh well, it's a good movie, but it made me go, it was an okay movie. That's all.
And it could have been better, is the way you're
Yeah,
thinking.
for me anyway. But
Yeah.
I know the general consensus, everyone's absolutely loving it. So
But this
what
is
a
the thing, like I'm definitely not the type of moviegoer and who tends to fall for the hype of things, or like there have been plenty of films in the last year or so where people have said like this is great, it's one of the best horrors of the year, and there have been plenty of films where I've gone, I absolutely do not see it. So understand where you're coming from with that. I'm probably going to say so far in terms of new releases, it probably is my favorite horror film of the year so far. Closely followed by Stop Motion, which of course we will talk about next week on the show. Yeah, I know I've already given my review, but I think I'd be interested to watch it again, especially the possession sequences, just to see how they kind of worked out. I just think, of course, here's the thing. After watching a lot of films in the last couple of weeks, especially at Fright Fest,
Yeah.
some which have been great, some which have been not so great. But I feel like there was one thing, and I mentioned it to Andy. I was like, if I see another cult in a film as the reason for something, I'm gonna rip my face off. That was my attitude going into this. And the fact
Yeah.
that I could watch this film, enjoy it, and even the cult like elements, I could like but it wasn't my favorite thing in the world, but I could see past those. I
Mm,
think that showed to me at least how much of a good time I had with the film. I don't think it's perfect, but I feel like an A minus is probably. I do B plus a lot, but I feel like the reason it goes a bit beyond B plus is just because of the overall my sort of interest to watch it again and see how my second experience is
sure.
with it.
Yeah.
That's a
No.
long way round of explaining that.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Uh,
interesting you're saying that there's like the cults are like a sort of running theme that's about to happen again. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like it feels like Fright Fest is obviously, the sort of the early screeners for people, isn't it? So all those films
yeah.
are due to come out. So it's weird that there's going to be a sort of
I
surgence of
think I've just noticed a lot in not just the Fright Fest movies, but maybe a few movies like recent releases. I feel like cults are kind of being used as a bit of a reason for things. Maybe it's like the boom of certain true crime things where, real life cults have kind of been explored a lot as well. It feels like if there's anything even marginally supernatural, the description is kind of like, well, the thing was there was this cult and they summoned something, and then it's a bit like, oh, bloody hell. It
there's people
doesn't,
in robes, it's always
yeah.
there's a talisman and there's always people in robes.
There's always people in robes and like a bloody owl man. But um yeah, it kind of it still worked for me. So yeah. Um of course, we are interested to know what everybody else thought of it. Um Let us know. I'm sure some people are going to be on my side. It's not sides. They're going to be on my side or Stu's side. Which side's right? Which side's wrong? Feel free to let us know. Or if you're a bit middling, be interested to know as well. Interested to know what Andy thinks when he eventually sees it. I see that there was like a lot of media outlets reported that it made £666,666 dollars. Sorry, which I was
Yeah,
like, yeah, of course it did.
yeah,
How
yeah.
much did it make?
You stopped counting at that point.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah. It did make that. It
yeah.
made more as well, but it did make that.
Yeah, all
Okay.
movies at some point make that if they go
Yeah.
above that figure.
Creepy. Spooky, innit? Spooky. That's a spooky
Yeah, it's proper
number.
weird. Never,
Proper
never seen
weird.
that.
Yeah, so there we go. Thanks for joining us, Stu. Where can our listeners keep up to date with you online, with your YouTube videos and any other stuff?
Yeah, so my YouTube channel is called StuTube. It's STOOTOOB. And I've got a couple of videos in the works. One of my most recent ones was a video about witch horror movies, about witchcraft and
Oh
witch.
yeah, nice.
That seems to be doing quite well. People are enjoying that. I did a spin-off of that, which was Witchy TV series. And then recently sort of re-edited one of my older videos, which was about X-Men video games to sort of bring in
Oh,
uh,
lovely.
the X-Men 97 video game kind of thing. So yeah, that's where I can be found. And yeah, I've got some videos in the pipeline, like I mentioned before. So hopefully, yeah, you can check those out when they're out and about once I make them.
Awesome. We will, of course, put those links in the show notes as usual, and I will recommend going back and listening to Stu on the show previous. And maybe I could put some links to those in the show notes as well. Interesting. And of course, join us in the future for Grave Encounters. We'll get that in the diary for one month coming up. Brilliant. So thanks everybody for listening. If you enjoyed the show, become a patron over at patreon.com/horror hangout. Thanks to all of our current patrons. Thanks to Taj Easton for our theme music. Thanks to Acast for hosting the show. Please consider giving us a rating or review. 5 stars only. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. And as mentioned, next week we'll be covering another brand new film called Stop Motion. And we'll be covering brand new films for the rest of April. How exciting. But thanks again, Stu.
My
Lovely to
pleasure.
see you. Speak to you soon. Take care.
Bye. Bye.